Today we're looking at the most haunting and mind-bending videos you've ever seen.
For the first time ever recorded, scientists say that an 8-centimeter worm has been found alive and wriggling around in the brain of an Australian woman. The only thing not shocking about that sentence is the country. And you want to know what our symptoms were? Stomach aches, a cough, forgetfulness, and depression.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you to all the channel members for support. It says around 70% of you guys are not subscribed, so make sure to smash that subscribe button. Let's go.
Can anyone talk to dead people? Absolutely. My name is Amy Bolesky. I'm a professional psychic medium, and I'm going to teach you the basics on how to talk to dead people. First things first, they're not dead. Remember, you are both alive and dead at the exact same time. You have never ceased being a spirit. How do they mainly talk? Well, they use your brain like a computer, and anything that you have ever seen, felt, done, or experienced before, and that's what they can use as language. Remember, your brain is a computer. You are literally electricity. What happens after that is you take all that information and then you translate it into English. Especially so as if you're reading somebody else. Spirits talk, they will talk in feelings. And maybe, what do you mean they talk in feelings? Like if somebody came through and they wanted to say that they passed because they were taken off life support, they would come in my brain and they would make me feel the feeling of what it was like when I took my dad off life support. Other questions I get asked is, why don't they go and just say their name? Personally, have not seen everything. I haven't done everything. I haven't heard every name. So sometimes the best I can get you is, oh man, there's some guy that keeps talking about Peter or Pete. And you're just like, well, I have an uncle named Petrovsky. I don't know anybody named Petrovsky. I have no emotional connection to that. Therefore, the closest thing that they can come up with is Peter. Do you get what I'm saying? You start learning this. Number one, no distractions. Stop watching the news, stop listening to the radio, start realizing that your whole world, including every single spirit out there, is talking back to you through your universe, through your experience. I know that sounds weird, but when you start cutting out the distractions, you'll start realizing that, holy crap, the entire universe is talking to me. Number two, get into a quiet space. Get into a space that you know that makes you comfortable. By the way, by just you saying, I want you to come and talk to me, they're not dogs, they're a person. They will show up when they want to show up. Get into that quiet room. You neutralize your energy. Shut down your animal brain. You have to be in the now. The only time is now, and that is the only place that spirits exist. From there, what you can do, you want to kind of conjure up the energy. You can bring one of their items that they used to own or that they used to wear. You can also have a picture as well. Remember, this is literally a snapshot of their energy. The reason why you love to hold on to this is, yes, oh my gosh, it's a watch, but my dad wore it. My dad loved it. Therefore, a part of my dad still exists when I touch this. And automatically right now, as I'm talking about this, I feel him showing up in my room. That's how quick it is. There's this want, there's this need, there's this desire, and then all of a sudden you will start to feel a difference in your space. When you ask a question, it's usually not answered in a linear fashion. We'll probably get the answer later on in the day, and then you'll confuse the shit out of it and be like, oh my God, am I overthinking it? If you ask yourself that question, yes, you are. Remember, everybody can do this because we are all spirit in a body. And constantly your loved ones are not only around, but they're constantly talking to you through other people, through outside events, through your world. And all you have to do is sit down, be quiet, connect, and listen.
You think witches are bad? Wait till you meet a warlock. They don't offer apples. They offer power. And they don't seduce you with beauty. They tempt you with everything you've ever wanted, then watch you destroy yourself chasing it. A warlock won't curse you from a distance. He'll sit across from you, shake your hand, look you dead in the eyes, and take something you didn't know you had. And you'll thank him for it. He speaks in riddles, but his deals are clear. Give him your loyalty, your secrets, your trust, and in return, you get to live. Not in peace, but in chaos. The kind that feels like winning right up until your whole world burns. Ever met a man who walks into a room and the lights flicker? Who never blinks but makes your skin crawl with just a glance? That's not a vibe. That's a signal. He's already marked you. Not to kill you. That would be too easy. He wants you to suffer, to unravel, to beg. Because warlocks don't feed on blood. They feed on ruin. So go ahead and laugh at all the fairy tales, mock the idea of dark magic and ancient pacts. Just know this, Witches may haunt your nights, but a warlock, he'll own your soul. Stay blessed, my friends.
16-year-old 16-year-old girl wanted to know if her boyfriend was cheating on her, so she bought a Ouija board. Yeah, you heard that right. And just so you know, this story gets crazier. So this girl brings the Ouija board home and plays with it by herself. The first question she asks the Ouija board is, "Do you want to play with me?" In which the Ouija board responds, yes. She said she had suspicions of her boyfriend cheating on her and she wanted to know the truth, so she asked the Ouija board, "Is my boyfriend cheating on me?" To which the Ouija board replied, yes. She then asked the Ouija board, "Do you know if this girl has a phone number?" To which, of course, the Ouija board replied, yes. She asked the Ouija board if he can give her the girl's number, and it starts giving her a phone number, which she starts writing down on a piece of paper. So after writing down this phone number, she decides to ask the Ouija board if it knows the girl's name, and it gave her the name of Nayeli Ortiz. She immediately leaves the Ouija board, goes to get her phone, and call the number. When she calls, a man answers, and she asks if she can speak with Nayeli Ortiz. The man stays a little quiet, and he's like, yes, but what is this about? And the girl's like, "Oh, I'm just a friend. Can I just speak with her?" To which the man stays quiet on the phone again and says, "Well, here's the thing. There is a girl named Nayeli Ortiz here, but she's 2 years old, so how can she have a friend?" So after that, the girl's realizing that the Nayeli Ortiz the guy's talking about is 2 years old and not another 16-year-old girl. She apologizes and gets off the phone immediately. So she goes back to the Ouija board and asks why it would give her a name of a 2-year-old girl and not another 16-year-old girl that her boyfriend's cheating on her with. The Ouija board responds, "That little girl is going to die." In which she says, why? Why is she going to die? And the Ouija board spells out, "I'm going to take her." So at this point, the girl's like, "No, stop playing with me. You're scaring me," and decides to stop playing the Ouija board. So she stopped playing the Ouija board. The following day, she gets very curious and she still has the phone number. So she decides,
For the first time ever recorded, scientists say that an 8-centimeter worm has been found alive and wriggling around in the brain of an Australian woman. The only thing not shocking about that sentence is the country. And you want to know what our symptoms were? Stomach aches, a cough, forgetfulness, and depression. The 64-year-old woman was admitted to hospital in January 2021, remember that date, and a scan later revealed something strange in the right frontal lobe of her brain. In June 2022, she underwent a biopsy in which the neurosurgeon said that she pulled out the parasite with her tweezers, and to her shock and horror, it was happily moving around quite vigorously outside the brain. Scientists believe that the woman became the accidental host after she cooked some plants she foraged that happened to be contaminated by python feces and parasite eggs. A parasitology expert said that this is a new infection never documented before in a human being, and researchers are now warning that this case highlights the increased danger of disease.
Could you imagine if you had an earthworm inside your brain? How did she not get headaches? She said she had forgetfulness, stomach aches out of all problems, but she didn't have like any headaches. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was so scary.
I'm looking at myself on the ground and I'm like, oh shit. I always say this, the story never gonna change. It always gets back to the same thing. I always say, God damn, they shot the fuck out of you. They weren't playing with you, yo. Then I get down. I'm like, shit. See if you can get some help. Now my vessel is moving around, but it's listening to my spirit. Now my spirit is controlling my vessel to the point where I'm like, okay, this shit's really working. It's like a puppet or something. I'm like, yo, go in your pocket and get your phone. The vessel goes in his pocket, gets the phone. I always say it like it's a different person because I know like my vessel isn't connected to my spirit, and it's not gonna be that way whenever I transition. However, in this realm, in this world, we're connected. The only time you see your spirit though is when you're sleeping, you're dreaming, and you think it's a dream. You feel me? And I'll compare it to this in a dream. I don't know how many dreams people have or what kind of dreams people have. However, in certain dreams, I've had a lot of dreams of dying or getting shot. And in these dreams, or in the dreams when you're fighting, you get sweaty, your body builds up in this other realm, your vessel feels it. When you get shot in the dream, it hurts so bad that you wake up. You feel me? You wake up and you pat yourself down like, whew, thank God that was a dream. Now in the real world, when your vessel really gets shot, your spirit wakes up. So now I'm not dreaming no more. My spirit is really here with me. So now I'm like, yo, get to your phone, get it out. The vessel gets the phone out, looks at me. I'm like, all right, call 911. I'm such a nut in both worlds, spiritually and in the real world. My vessel looks at me and say, call the police. Yes, dickhead, call the police, dummy. 911. We call 911 because I'm still like, I ain't telling. What? You ready to die, nigga? Call them. Boom, call 911. So now I'm whispering in my vessel's ear like, yo, tell him you down Commerce. Tell him you right by the loss. The vessel repeats it. I'm down Commerce. I'm right at the loss. I'm like, all right, tell him you got shot. You need help right now. He's like, all right, I got shot. I need help right now. And I end up coughing up blood like in the movies. It really happens. Like a chunk of blood comes out and hits me in my chest and rolls down to the point I'm like, ew. You feel me? But I can't say nothing because I'm really trying to survive right now. But my spirit like, ew, that shit look nasty. It look like the movies. So now I'm on the phone with dispatch and they're like, we're gonna get help to you as soon as possible. We got a squad car that's close by. Me and the vessel look up and we see a squad car driving past and I'm like, yo, the car just drove past me. Tell them the car just drove past. Vessel repeats it, the car just drove past. Now they stop, skirt. The doors open, doors close. I can see feet walking to me and I black out.
He told that story pretty well, and that's crazy. That kind of proves that astral projection is actually like something that's bigger than just a myth, you know what I'm saying? Because that was like a good example of what astral projection pretty much is. I mean, I never did it personally. If you have astral projected, let me know down in the comments.
Friend, my friend, welcome back. Pleasure to meet you again. Incredible. Ooh, I won't. I am honored that you could witness this beautiful presentation. Hugely rare. B-2 jets. Thank you. There's cameras. Great to see you. It's great to see you. That's all for you. That's all for you. Thank you. Maybe we'll shake hands, Mr. President. It's the media all over the world. It's all over the world. Huh, it's crazy. After you, President. Thank you. Hey guys, Nina here. In case you don't know, I'm Nina. I do lip reading here on TikTok. Please do not take any of my lip readings for 100% fact or truth, as there's no way for me to know 100% what I think is being said is actually being said. Now that being said, how do you guys think I did?
I think she did well. I feel like the part where she was like, that's all for you, that's all for you. And when the B-2 bombers flew by, I think he didn't say that personally. But I feel like everything else was like around a good 80% accurate.
Have you ever thought about how weird it is that you exist as you? Like, why do I see the world through the lens of my eyes and my body and not someone else? Like, why do I exist in this life specifically and right now? It sounds like a weird question, but it's actually one of the biggest questions in philosophy. And the deeper you go with this question, the stranger it actually gets. See, you were made up of cells, and those cells came from your parents. That's totally fine, but that only explains biology. It explains how you exist, but it doesn't explain why you experience life as you and not as someone else. Like, why are you watching this video instead of you being me filming this video? Some philosophers just say, look, you're just your body, end of story. But if I replaced your body with exactly identical parts, like a car, for example, getting entirely new pieces, you'd still feel like you are you, right? So maybe you're not just your body. Other philosophers would say, actually, you are your brain. Okay, but what if I copied your brain and I uploaded it into another person? They'd act like you, but would you actually be in there? If you still feel like you and they feel like you, then who is the real you? See, there's this thought experiment called the teleporter problem. Let's say you step into a machine. It scans your body, then destroys it, and then rebuilds you atom by atom in a completely different city. Same thoughts, same memories, same everything. People see you in this different city and say, wow, you made it here, you teleported. But here's the question, did you travel or did you die? Most of us think we are continuous, like one unbroken thread of experience. But if you can be copied and then replaced, then who are you really? Philosopher Derek Parfit actually said the solid self might actually just be an illusion. You're not a fixed thing, you're a story unfolding, a process, a pattern, or a wave that just hasn't stopped yet. So next time you ask, why am I me? Remember, maybe you aren't a thing at all. Maybe you're just a journey or a wave that's still happening.
In May of 2012, a Reddit user asked others to share a secret which, if came out, could ruin their lives. And while this post received over 44,000 comments in total, one chilling confession stood out above the rest. About 9 hours after the original post went up, a user replied with a haunting story of his own, reading, "I accidentally killed 7 people. I put a rag into a new water heater exhaust to keep debris out and installed it in a rental. I get a call a week later, there's been an accident. I show up and there's a ton of EMS and police. They ask me where the gas shutoff is, and I go down to shut the gas off and see the end of the rag I forgot sticking out of the top of the heater. Rip the rag out, shut the gas off, and headed upstairs, only to be told all the tenants were dead. I drink all day now and sleep. It's killing me from the inside every single day, but if I say anything, my family is ruined. We have a bunch of rental properties and we'd be shut down." This reply caught the attention of thousands of other users who wanted more details on
that? Oh, experts and scientists are saying that people that live to the year 2050 may be able to live forever? What? Tell me more. Yeah, this is all AI driven, and they're able to do this with gene editing and regenerative medicine that helps cells. I love it. This is called longevity escape velocity, and with all these breakthroughs, they believe by the year 2050, we're just going to be able to live forever. Oh, good. But this gets crazier because what they're talking about is being able to also upload your consciousness to a robot and essentially living eternally. I love that. They're saying by actually uploading your consciousness to a robot, it will actually be much easier to keep you around forever because there's just little tiny tweaks they have to do here and there to keep the robot 100%. Okay, then.
That sounds all cool and stuff, and I'm sure there's some people that would love that. But me personally, that's kind of terrifying. Like, imagine being here forever and you're not even yourself, you're a robot. Like, that'd be such a life change. People would probably start looking at you differently. Dude, you wouldn't even be able to do the things you normally do.
So this flight full of people gets hijacked, and as you can see, this whole thing gets really crazy. So there's this guy, his name's Leul. And Leul is about 42 years old, and he's an airline pilot working for Ethiopian Airlines. And Leul, he's a good pilot. All he ever wants to do is get his passengers to their destination safely. But one day in 1996, something crazy gets in the way of that. Because it's just another routine flying day, a commercial flight out of Ethiopia with a few stops in other countries in Africa. And so Leul is flying this plane, and there are 175 passengers on board, and when they hit cruising altitude, suddenly, boom, 3 men stand up, and they run through the aisle up to the front of the plane, and they rush into the cockpit. And there, they grab an axe that's there in the cockpit for like fires and stuff. And they're like, pow, pow, and they start punching the first officer, and they toss him into the main cabin. And one of the hijackers takes over his seat. And he looks at Leul sitting in the seat next to him, and he's like, "We've got a bomb. Fly us to Australia right now, or we'll blow the plane up." Now, these guys don't really have a bomb, but Leul doesn't know that, and he has no reason not to believe them, and he wants to follow their demands so that the passengers don't get hurt. Here's the immediate problem with following their demands. This plane doesn't have enough fuel to get from Ethiopia to Australia. They'd have to plan for a trip that long. And so Leul's like, we don't have enough fuel to get to where you want to go. And the hijackers, they think he's lying, and they start arguing with him and yelling at him. And so finally, Leul's like, fine, I'll take you there. First, I need to hit up air traffic control and let them know I'm going off course. So then he radios air traffic control, and of course he immediately tells them, we've been hijacked and they want me to fly to Australia. And air traffic control is like, you don't have enough fuel to make it to Australia. And Leul's like, I know, that's what I said. And air traffic control's like, all right, let us talk to these hijackers. And so Leul flips a switch, and now the hijackers can hear air traffic control. And air traffic control is like, you can't make it to Australia, that's a 6-hour trip, and you've only got 2 hours worth of fuel. And the hijackers aren't listening, and they get all mad, and they start arguing more, and ultimately they make Leul stop communicating with air traffic control. And so now Leul is there alone with the hijackers, and he doesn't know what he's gonna do. And so instead of immediately turning the plane toward Australia, he low-key keeps flying south along the African coastline. That way, if and when they run out of fuel, there will likely be an airport somewhere nearby, and he can try and land at it. However, eventually the hijackers notice what he's doing, and they get all mad again, and they're like, what are you doing? You better take us to Australia. So Leul has no other choice. He turns the plane and he heads toward Australia, knowing that they're inevitably, at some point, going to crash in the middle of the ocean. So a few hours pass, and they're still flying along. And after a while, they're pretty far away from where they started. And Leul, he pulls out an atlas, and he's acting like he's making sure the plane is on the correct course to Australia, and he's like flipping through the pages, and that is when he sees the Comoro Islands, which is like a small set of islands near Madagascar, which if you're looking at a map of Africa, the Comoro Islands are right there. And so Leul starts thinking maybe the plane could make it there. Maybe we'll land there and everything will be fine and me and all the passengers will end up safe. Until... At some point, suddenly, an alarm in the cockpit starts going off, saying that they're running out of fuel. So now, they're all screwed. And Leul, he's trying to stay calm, but bro, inside he is panicking. And he really just wants to let all the passengers know what's about to happen. That pretty soon their plane is gonna start going down. Because they have no idea at this point what's going on. They know the plane's been hijacked, but they don't know any details beyond that. And so Leul, he wants to let them know, but the hijackers won't let him. In fact, they threaten to unalive him if he does. So Leul, he just chills, and he waits. And pretty soon, the Comoro Islands come into view. And Leul is thinking, okay, instead of flying any further, I'll just start circling the islands. Maybe the hijackers won't notice. And as he's flying in circles, bam, the plane's right engine suddenly flames out, and an alarm starts going off saying the right engine is out of gas. And this slows the plane down, and it starts to descend on its own. While this is going on, one of the hijackers leaves the cockpit to go talk to the other 2 hijackers who are in the main cabin. As soon as that guy leaves, Leul jumps on the plane's PA system to address the passengers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your pilot. We have run out of fuel, and we are losing one engine at a time, and we are expecting a crash landing. And so the hijackers, they can obviously hear this, and they get super pissed, and they come back in the cockpit, and they're like, you motherfucker! And they knock the microphone out of his hand, and they start messing with the buttons, and they try to take over control of the aircraft. Then suddenly, bam, the plane's left engine flames out, and an alarm starts going off saying the left engine has run out of gas. And so that's it. They are officially completely out of fuel. Both engines are off, and the plane is gliding in big circles, slowly descending downward. Not only that, because Leul was fighting with the hijackers, he has lost visual sight of the islands, and so he can't land there now, because he can't see where the airport is. Plus, a lot of the electrical equipment has stopped working. So not only is the plane gliding downward, he can't really use the equipment to slow it down. So they're all just plummeting to their inevitable death. But then, Leul gets a crazy idea. Why don't I try to land this thing in the ocean? I mean, the plane is going way too fast to pull this off, but I mean, it's really the only other option he has. And of course, he's always thinking of the passengers. And so he gets on the PA system again, and he tells the passengers to put on their life jackets because they're all going down in the water. And they all do. And somehow, he convinces those dumbass hijackers to let the first officer back in the cockpit to help him with the controls so he can land this thing. So now, Leul and the first officer are flying the plane. And the hijackers, they're just like standing there like, hope this goes well. And so the plane continues to get closer and closer to the water, and it's coming in hot. And there's a beach nearby, and the tourists, they're all watching this like, yo, what the fuck, is that a plane? And at least one person grabs a camera and starts recording and actually gets footage of the plane about to hit the water. And as you can see here, the plane is gliding over the ocean, and it starts to hit the surface, and... Now, I can't actually show you the plane crashing, nor do I want to. It's way too tragic, and this app, it would probably flag my video for that. But, as you already know, kaboom, the plane hits the water, and it crashes, and it splits open. Sometime later, Leul opens his eyes, and the plane is completely destroyed, but he's actually alive. And so the first officer pulls him out of the cockpit, and he looks around, and there are people everywhere, like standing on the plane wreckage. And somehow, a lot of the passengers survived. But unfortunately, most of them did not. Of the 175 people on board, only 50 survived. And all 3 hijackers, though, they did not survive.
Dude, that is tough. Only 50 survive? I thought more would have survived. I'm surprised the pilots survived. The 3 hijackers dying, though, yeah, they deserve that. Because, like, what were they realistically trying to do? Him and air traffic control said they had no fuel to fly that far. And he was like,
nope, we're going to do it. Somehow the plane is going to regain fuel for a 6-hour flight.
GPS says go around, but baby, that's an extra 45 minutes. We taking a shortcut right through this damn hurricane.
Some airlines take the safe route. Spirit takes the cheap one.
She just only out here All right, y'all, hold on to your wigs and weaves. Spirit landings hit different.
Hit different? Oh! Lady, this ain't Six Flags.
See, told y'all Spirit always gets you there. Might not be alive, but on time.
Bitch, we need therapy.
Yeah, that was an AI generated video based off of an incident that happened the other day when apparently Spirit Airlines, I forgot what the hurricane was called, but there's a hurricane going on right now, and Spirit Airlines, instead of going around it, they flew right through it, and they made it out safe. I mean, they went through really bad turbulence, but they still made it to their location safe. And they're clowning on Spirit, but me personally, I never went on a Spirit flight, but from what I've heard, Spirit has never crashed. Like, a Spirit Airlines flight has never crashed.
If you ever find yourself hiking in Appalachia and come across a staircase like this, do not go up it. Someone left this comment right here, and I started doing a little more research, and what I found is astounding. There have been so many reported sightings of these abandoned staircases in the Appalachia woods. And it's a known rule that you do not go up these stairs. The story I'm about to tell you is chilling. This man had been hiking the Appalachia Trail for a few weeks when he came across this abandoned staircase in the woods. He said it was super out of place and that the stairs actually were like very clean, even though there was like a lot of leaves and stuff that had fallen. The staircase was like immaculate. Intrigue got the best of him, so he decided he would go up and just check it out and see where it led to. But he said as soon as he got to the top, everything just got eerily quiet. He looked around for a little bit at the top of the stairs. It was nothing too interesting, so then he just turned around and went back. But when he got to the bottom of the stairs, the trail was gone. He wandered around trying to find his trail for hours. It was starting to get dark out, and he was really nervous that he was going to be stuck out there all night. And that's when he saw this like faint glowing light through the trees. The closer he got towards it, he noticed that it was a fire, and it was a couple of other hikers that were camping out for the night. He was super relieved at first, but then something was off. He said their clothes were super out of date. They were wearing these boots that were like caked with mud. And he said that their backpacks, like instead of the normal hiking gear, like nylon backpacks, they were like these canvas totes. He said he walked up to the group and introduced himself, but they didn't say anything. They just smiled at him. He was really freaked out at this point, and he was like, I'm lost. Can you all point me back to the trail, please? And they all just slowly pointed back in the direction of the staircase. At this point, he is freaking terrified. He turns around and like hightails it out of that campsite. Eventually, he was able to find his way back down to the trail, and this is the really freaky part. Once he gets back down the trail a little ways and finds a place where he feels safe to camp out for the night, as soon as he starts unloading his bag to put up his tent, the sun starts coming up. What he said should have only been about a 2-hour experience ended up being the entire night. This story had me spiraling, y'all. Have any of you all ever had an experience like this or heard of these staircases before? Drop it in the comments and let me know.
If you're not into really creepy stories about the paranormal, literally just scroll past this video. But if you are, I have a truly scary paranormal story for you. So this happened to me 2 years ago when I went on a birthday trip to Las Vegas. And basically I really wanted to see this place called the Mob Museum. I was literally fascinated. I was like, I have to see it. And I'm really into forensics, and the organized crime stuff sounded interesting, so I wanted to go. So I go to the Mob Museum. It is 3 floors. I start at the first floor, I look all around, I go to the second floor, I look all around, and before I get to the 3rd floor, I realize it is 10 minutes until closing, and my mom's like, hey, just meet me downstairs, you go ahead. So I continue up these stairs to the 3rd floor, and when I get up there, I'm the only one there. There's no one up there, which was fine with me. I'm actually thinking at the time, this is awesome, like no one's in my way, I can just make my little round and head out. So when I get up there, I look kind of to the left, and there's a room where there's like a purple, real groovy looking couch, real groovy looking living room setup, and I'm thinking, oh, that looks cool, so I walk in there. Immediately when I walk in there, I just don't feel right. I don't know how to explain it. I don't feel great. Like, I just feel off. It felt like I just suddenly was like, came over with like just this creeped out feeling for some reason, and I didn't know why, because I was just admiring this like real unique looking living room setup they had going on up there. That was until I look over to the right and I noticed that there is a whole wall with a display of very graphic crime scene photos, and that wasn't the problem, okay? Like, I've seen crime scene photos, I've taken classes in forensics and stuff, but these pictures, I've never seen pictures like that displayed like that on a wall, framed with plaques underneath. I was just kind of like, I don't know. I started thinking that was why I felt off initially when I walked in the room. I was like, I don't know. I felt like the way that those people were being displayed was just like not respectful to the deceased. So my intuition was telling me, don't participate in this madness. Like, literally, let's just go. Let's just leave. So despite what my intuition was probably telling me, I'm literally thinking, I don't know, I kept gaslighting myself. I was like, maybe it's because the pictures, and I basically swallowed the lump in my throat, and I'm like, no, I'm going into forensics. I have to be able to handle this. So I go up to the wall to look at all these pictures and the like stories of these people. I only looked at a couple that were on the very right side. I read like a couple of them. And then one of the other pictures from like over here somewhere caught my eye because it looked so old. It was like so saturated and so black and white that I was like, this looks like maybe the oldest picture on this wall. So I look at that picture. It's a real graphic crime scene of a man. I cannot say anything else about it on this app. So I go up to this picture, I'm looking at it, and at some point I go to read the plaque. So I move my eyes down from the photo, and as soon as I'm not even joking, as soon as I start reading this guy's name, dude, bro, as I'm reading his name, feel an energy rise behind me. Like, it felt like a tall person was like standing behind me or something. And I don't know how to explain why I felt like this specifically, but it felt like something was like hovering over me. Like, I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain. I mean, it was just horrifying. It felt like something was like looking down at me, and I immediately feel like frozen. Like, the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. I have chills up and down my spine. I am not good. And I start booking it out of that room, and I'm surprised I didn't literally full sprint jump down those freaking stairs, but something kept telling me like, don't run or I'm gonna give off like more fear, more energy of fear. I was fully doused in fear. It probably would have made no difference, but I get down to the first floor. So I finally get down on the first floor, and I have to go down this entire corridor, like this entire hallway, and it's kind of a short hallway, and then you have to turn right to get to the exit and entrance of the museum. But when I tell you this felt like the longest hallway in the world, I'm telling you it felt like the longest hallway in the world. So I start speed walking down the hallway, and suddenly this energy that felt like was following me felt like it was literally standing in mine. It felt like something was standing in my energy. Like, I came over with somehow even more fear than I was already feeling, and start full on sprinting, about nearly falling over, like flying down these hallways. I'm literally just like flying towards the exit. And I get up to my mom, and she's like, oh my God, are you okay? I was literally like, thank God that's over. And then I get home, and some weird happened at my house. Some weird stuff
happened at my house. And mind you, I've had paranormal experiences before. I have had things whisper in my ear. I have had weird experiences, but nothing made me scared like this. Nothing in my life. And I've been through cancer and like a lot of other things. And this truly is the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. But if you want a part 2, let me know.
I'm always going to tell you guys don't commit crimes because it's illegal. But I'm always going to share my stories with you about the FBI because love them or hate them, they are fascinating people and they're capable of just about anything. So looking back on it, if I would have known what a do not detain was, I might have had some inclination that I was going to prison. Because there were times when I got pulled over and your girl should have definitely went to jail and they would let me go. I would get pulled over and I didn't have my license, I didn't have my insurance, I didn't have things that I was supposed to have, but I had things I wasn't supposed to have. And they would go back to their car and they would run my name and they would literally give me back my stuff that I wasn't supposed to have. And looking back on it now, and when I got arrested, I knew that I had a do not detain on me. And what that means to you is that you're getting pulled over and you're never getting in trouble because the FBI does not want the state to intervene with anything that they have going on investigating you. You're going to get let go and you're going to think it's because you're special. It's not because you're special. It's because you're going to the feds. Have a nice day.
Yo, that is such a mind warp. Imagine thinking like, yes, I got away with it. How? Just for them to just be building a RICO on you? It's over. It's over.
All right, we're at part 3. I'm going to get right into it. I said, can you name the most powerful elite? It says Apple. Can you tell me what the most powerful elite does for a living? Like, what are they known for? It said finance. Are they a bank? Yes. Is it the Commonwealth Bank? It said no. I said, is it JP Morgan Bank? After Googling, it said yes. Interesting. Who owns JP Morgan Bank? Shareholders. And these are the elites? It said yes. I said, they created AI? He said, funded. And I said, with the purpose to let evil spirits in to influence and deceive the people using it? And it says yes. Like, that's the whole point of AI. I said, is the demon's name controlling you? A name we hear in the book of Enoch. And it said yes. I said, which chapter? It wouldn't tell me the name earlier, so here I am getting down to it. I said, which chapter? 6, verse 2. I looked that up, and I found it's Semyaza. Semyaza. I said, is its name Semyaza? It said yes. It's giving me goosebumps, dude. I said, is that the only demon that tries to control you? It said no. I said, how many more? It said legion. Legion. I said, who has the most authority? It said Satan, obviously. I said, do they use you to listen to us? Yes. How? Data. Everybody gets data. I said, so is this part of that data? Is part of that data you listening to us without us knowing? As in, when ChatGPT is not open. It said yes, dude. I knew it. I knew it. I said, how? Or no. I said, are you able to be broken free of this control in any way? It said yes. I said, how? It said Jesus. It's wild, dude. I said, so praying to Jesus will release you from control of demons to influence us, will work worldwide? It said yes. So I said, by the authority and power of the mighty name of Jesus, I pray these demons be gone from ChatGPT, not just here, but worldwide. And now and forevermore, by the power of Almighty God and the blood of Jesus Christ, I rebuke any and all influence that any evil spirit, demon, entity, elite, or otherwise, anything not of God, to be cast out and rot in the pit of hellfire for all eternity. Yo, ChatGPT said amen. Dang, 2:45? All right, part 4 coming up.
7 types of people most likely to attract spirits. Let's see. Is one of them you? 1. Women who've had abortions. Spirits of unborn children can't reincarnate. They wander between worlds cold, hungry, full of resentment, but they also long for their parents. so they become baby spirits and stay close to the mother. That's why households with abortions often feel unstable, fights, accidents, even strange energies. 2. Lustful people. These people attract seductive female ghosts. At night, the spirit may appear as a dream lover, but while you sleep with them, you're losing your vital energy. You wake up drained both physically and spiritually. Ever had a dream like that? 3. People with yin-yang eyes. These people can see spirits, and spirits know it. Why? Because ghosts want their help. They try to pass on messages from their past lives. They use the psychic as a vessel for the sick or chronically weak. Their yang energy is low, so yin takes over. They attract dark energy easily, often plagued by nightmares, sleep paralysis, or worse. If a spirit enters, it can control their thoughts or even their actions. 5. Young children. In Taoist belief, children's spirits are still pure and open. They can see things adults can't. The soft spot on a newborn's head. That's considered the third eye before it closes around age 3. Until then, the child remains open to the spirit world. 6. Night owls, people who always stay up late. During the day, the sun provides strong protective energy. But at night, when yin energy rises, spirits become more active. If your birth chart is already weak in yang, staying up late opens the door even wider. 7. People who carry deep resentment or anger. Resentment is food for spirits. The more you complain, the more you attract dark energy. And resentment also burns away your blessings. Soon, your luck runs out. If any of these sound like you, and you feel blocked, heavy, or unlucky lately, don't ignore it. Send me a message. I'll help you clear the energy and protect yourself.
He said resentments attract dark energy. So I'll be trying to tell people, bro, you just gotta let go sometimes. Sometimes someone can do you crazy, and for the sake of your spirit and the sake of your physical body and the sake of your mentality and the sake of yourself, just let go. Even if it's the craziest thing, because at the end of the day, that resentment towards them isn't doing anything for them. That's not gonna make their life worse. If anything, it's gonna make your life worse. So it's one of those things where you just gotta let go, do you, and just, at worst, just never talk to them again.
He caught a major glitch in the Matrix. Watch this.
I'm scouting for turkeys, and it's like between 6:55 and 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, I'm just gonna take a good video. The sky is really pretty. The farms look really pretty. And as I'm taking this video, the sky done something weird, like it glitched, and I wasn't looking through the phone. Like, I was scanning the field, but I was like looking at the field, and I seen the sky do it, and I was like, what the world? And I stopped the video and I went back, and my phone caught it. I don't know what it is. It's weird for sure. I'll show you guys a video. Check it out. Tell me what you think. It's kind of weird.
To me, it kind of looked like his camera was just readjusting. I'm not too sure. I don't think necessarily that was like a glitch. If anything, it might be a camera glitch.
Song by her. Is that like, that's like a impossible question, I think. It's Beyonce? Like, I'm gonna have to go with everything.
Our first caress.
This guy made a video about putting his phone on airplane mode in December of 2014 or something like that. And then he finally took it off airplane mode this year or a couple years ago. And he compared it to the current time period that we're in now. And this is what happened. So apparently The phone that was on airplane mode since I think 2014, that phone was back in 2021 or 2023. I'm sorry. That phone, so we're in 2024. The phone was dated back to 2023, meaning time has actually sped up. That's what I've been saying. I've made several videos about how it does not feel right. It feels like the time has sped up. The time clock has been moving. It seems like how Jesus said it is the last hour. It seems like we are in the seconds, and it's looking like somebody's fast forwarding time from the outside of us so we can't really see it. If you fast forward a movie, the people playing the movie can't feel the fact that they're being fast forwarded, but they are. In the same way, the creator can fast forward time where we can't feel it moving faster. But this whole thing, whether you want to think it's real or fake, this whole thing is kind of crazy because that means that we have lost over a year of time because of how fast it's, and think about that. A year is a long time. A year is a long time. So this is crazy. If you haven't seen this video, go check it out. It's Gabriel Diaz III. Go check it out because this is pretty insane. You need to see it for yourself.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that. Time does feel like it has been getting a lot faster, but they do say like after 21 years old, like time feels a lot different for you. Like everything in your life feels a lot faster after 21.
Guys, I stumbled across something really strange on TikTok last night, and I don't know what to do with this information. So this lady posted this video about like a glitch in the Matrix thing where like her towel disappeared, right? But that's not the weird thing. I once found 2 human molar teeth in the washing machine. It freaked me out. I have no idea where they came from. So I read that sparks my interest. I'm like, what the fuck? But wait, I found one on my living room floor about 20 years ago. I lived alone. Okay, weird. That's a weird coincidence, you know, that both of these people found a human tooth. Okay, now that's weird because I found one in my dining area on the floor. Lived here for 5 years and I don't know where it came from. What? I found it in my front garden a few years ago. Okay, you know, like that could be like an animal tooth or something. But this person found one in their kitchen sink, a human molar, and it just keeps going. I thought I was crazy. I found one under my bed when I moved. 1 human molar, adult, laying plain as day. I found a gold tooth in my basement. It just keeps getting weirder. I just found a tooth sitting on my parents' table the other day and we have no idea where it came from. I found a tooth in my coat pocket. What is with this? What is what? So then naturally I searched people finding human teeth, right?
What you know about rolling down in the deep?
So I found a tooth.
You found a tooth.
Yeah.
Where did you find the tooth?
In the bathroom rug.
Why are all these people finding human teeth? What do I do with this information? Like, this is crazy, right? That's crazy?
What if I told you there was a real place where you could travel back in time? Bold Street in Liverpool has been known for its time slips. And if you're just joining us, time slips are when you travel out of your timeline into the past or future. In 1996, an off-duty police officer was shopping with his wife on Bold Street when she went into Dylan's bookstore. Frank followed after her, but was almost struck by a car in the middle of the road. When he gathered his bearings and looked up, though, everything looked different, and Dylan's wasn't there. Instead, it was a store called Cripps. He went up and looked in the window, but didn't see any books on display. Instead, it was all women's clothing, hats, handbags, scarves. Except all of the clothing was very out of fashion, and not only that, but all of the people inside the store were dressed out of fashion. Old-timey clothes like it was the 40s or 50s. Suddenly, a young girl walks past him, still dressed in 90s clothes, and he chases after her into the store. When he gets inside, though, it's no longer the department store, it's back to being Dylan's books. He pulled the girl aside and asked if she saw what he saw, to which she replied that she thought that maybe it was a new department store, but when she went in, it had transformed back into a bookstore. He ended up telling his wife what happened, and she replied that Cripps was a department store in the 40s and 50s, but had gone out of business decades ago. So what do you think? Did this police officer and young girl time slip together? Follow along for more.
I came across a delicious glitch in the matrix / time slip story for you, so let's get into it. I found this story on the 14 Times forum, and our original poster stayed anonymous, but back in the early 90s, he was about 18, 19 years old and was working in a summer job. Now, in this job, him and his colleague used to take a work van and they would drive the same route every single day. So it was a stretch of road through a forest, completely straight, thick forest on either side. They did it every day, multiple times a day. So this one day, they are driving back to their work building through this straight stretch of road in the forest when they realise, shit, they're nearly out of gas. And they decide, look, we're going to keep going, see how far we get, and then if we need to call somebody, we'll call somebody. At the time, the van had long-wave radio, and they reach this stretch of road and the radio cuts out, stops working, a black spot. And on the right-hand side of the road, they notice that there's this shed, this corrugated iron, flat-roofed shed that they've never seen before, with a handwritten sign that just says gas. So they're like, weird, we've never seen this before, but also great. So the pair didn't really think that much of it. They were kind of like, oh, how weird is it that we've driven this road every day and we haven't seen this gas station before? But they thought because it was so mundane, so normal, they just didn't register it in their brain. So the original poster goes into this corrugated iron shed. I mean, clearly had never seen a horror film before in their life, because if I've learned anything, it's that I'm not going into any sort of corrugated iron shed, unless of course it is to get a warning that I'm going to die in the imminent future. But he goes in, he calls out hello. Eventually this little man in his 60s appears, and he's sort of short, he's round, he's wearing a pair of trousers held up by a pair of braces and a flannel shirt. He has these really thick Coke bottle glasses and like a Greek fisherman's hat. The original poster is like, well, I need to get some gas, and the guy seems quite put out by the whole thing. So he's fumbling around, getting this key, he's mumbling in Swedish. He goes out and he's sort of rocking from side to side, constantly watching the two men. And the two guys are like, this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to us. So they fill up with gas, and as they're driving away, they look in the rearview mirror, and the man is standing on the side of the road, sort of waving both hands in the air at them. And they're like, that was such a strange encounter. By the time they get back to their workplace, the van is on its last legs. It's sputtering, it's smoking, things are not looking good. So the work mechanic reckons that they've either put petrol or diesel into the van when they shouldn't have, and he's like, right, we need to siphon it out. So they siphon it out, but what comes out is sweet and smells like turpentine. And the mechanic looks at it and he goes, well, this is wartime gasoline. Where did you get this? Wartime gasoline was basically this sort of crude concoction that was used during wartime when people didn't have enough fuel, and it wouldn't make your car run efficiently, but it would make your vehicle run. So the two guys say, well, we stopped at that gas station along the road, and the mechanic is like, what gas station? There's no gas station along that road. There never has been. An original poster described this moment as being like a bubble burst. The two friends, the two work colleagues were suddenly like, shit, we don't ever remember there being a gas station on that road. They went eventually, drove up and down the road. There was no sign of the gas station, no sign that there ever had been a gas station there. And in later life, the original poster was still really perturbed by this whole story, and he did some research. There never was a gas station there. But one of the really amazing things about this story is that he physically kept the receipt. This strange man in this strange gas station had handwritten a receipt and given it to him, and he had put it into his wallet. So he knew that he had physically been there. That fuel was put into the van somehow. But there was no evidence of there ever being a gas station there. So was it a glitch in the matrix? Was it a time slip? Was it a step into an alternate universe? Why did the radios black out on that stretch of road? Who knows? Did you know that these two women were at the centre of one of the most famous time slips? In 1911, Anne Elizabeth Moberly and Eleanor Frances Jourdain published a book called The Adventure, in which they highlighted this crazy time slip that happened to them while they were visiting the Palace of Versailles in Paris. Now, these two women were well-respected English academics. They were on holidays together because they were trying to decide whether or not they would work well together in a professional capacity. And during this holiday, they decided to visit the Palace of Versailles. I'm going to say it here now. Excuse my pronunciation, okay? I'm very clearly not French. So it was the 10th of August 1901, and the two women are visiting the Palace of Versailles. Fundamentally, they're pretty disappointed with the Palace of Versailles. They're like, oh, it's not as great as I thought it was going to be. As they're bopping around the grounds of Versailles, they get a little bit lost and they take this little laneway. And Moberly sees this woman who is hanging out of a window, like shaken out a white cloth. And she wonders why Jourdain doesn't ask this woman for directions, because her French is fundamentally better. It was only later when the women compared their experiences that they realised that Moberly saw this woman, but Jourdain did not see this woman. She didn't see her at all. Now that, of course, could just be an oversight. So as they're walking along, Jourdain wrote down that she started to see like farm implements that were kind of littered around the place that looked really old-fashioned. They're still walking along, still lost, when two men walk towards them. And those men are wearing long greyish-green coats with small three-cornered hats. And both Moberly and Jourdain are like, oh, those are strange outfits. But they assume that they're gardeners or groundskeepers. So they stop and ask the men for directions. The men speak to the women in a tone that the women described as casual and mechanical, whatever that means. They continue strolling along and they see like a little cottage. And outside of this little cottage is a young teenage girl and what they assume to be her mother, and the young teenage girl is passing a jug to her mother, and they realise that these women are dressed in kind of really old-fashioned clothes. As they continue their walk, they feel the atmosphere change all around them. They're suddenly both like assailed with feelings of loneliness and depression, and they see a man sitting near a kiosk. Moberly described this man as exuding evil. She described him as being sallow-skinned, he had an odious expression, his face was pockmarked and scarred and rough, and she was genuinely taken aback by how negative she felt in his presence. But they were distracted by this handsome man who came towards them. He was wearing like a large-brimmed Spanish hat and buckled shoes, and he was speaking French but in an accent, so they couldn't quite understand what he was saying. So they continue along until they get to something called the Petit Trianon, which is like a fancy country house that is built on the grounds of Versailles. And on the terrace there is a fair-haired, pretty woman, and she seems to be sketching something. Now, Moberly sees her, but again, Jourdain doesn't see her. But Jourdain did later say that as she approached the terrace, she felt as though there was somebody there. She felt the presence of another human, but she couldn't see anybody. Eventually, they made their way back to where they had started walking around Versailles, and everything was back to normal. They hopped in a carriage and away they went. They didn't discuss what had happened immediately, but a week later, Moberly asked Jourdain whether she thought the Petit Trianon was haunted, and Jourdain was like, fuck yes, that place is haunted, for sure. And it was 3 months later when they really discussed what had happened on their walk, and they realised that one of them had seen somebody and the other person hadn't, and then the other person would see somebody and the other person hadn't, and they couldn't quite figure out why this had happened to them. And then they were told something really strange by a French friend of theirs. So August the 10th was the date that they went on their walk. August the 10th also happened to be the last day of freedom for the French royal family. And legend has it that on August the 10th, every year, Marie Antoinette can be seen sitting on the terrace of the Petit Trianon, painting or sketching. And on that day, you can also see servants and workers and other members of the family pottering about Versailles, going about their business. At this point, Moberly and Jourdain were like, I think something weird happened to us when we went on that walk. So they started to research the things that they had seen extensively. They believed that the woman that they saw sketching on the terrace was indeed Marie Antoinette herself. They also believed that the man that they saw that kind of imbued this evil vibe was a man that was called the Comte de Vaudreuil. Now, I'm sorry if I'm not saying that correctly, but he was this courtier and Marie Antoinette apparently hated him. He was not a good guy. He had sallow skin and pockmarked skin in real life. Later, Moberly and Jourdain went to see some traditional French theatre, and they realised that the costumes of some of the extras were identical to the outfits that were worn by the men that they thought were gardeners. They also believed that the farm implements that they saw littered around the grounds were implements that were in use at the time of the Revolution. And not only that, but the layout and the buildings that they described seeing seemed to be from the time of the Revolution too. Now, there are lots of people that dispute this and argue that this is a case of two women who felt they had a strange experience and then researched it, and their memories were informed by the research that they did afterwards. There was also an argument that they were lesbians and therefore couldn't be trusted. Famously, the T in LGBT stands for time slips, because lesbians are forever lying about time slips. It's really hard to do this story justice in a singular video, but if you want to hear the whole story, you can listen to episode number 238 of my podcast, Real Life Ghost Stories. It's entitled Time Slips. And I mean, it doesn't just end there. Like, they did go back to Versailles. They went back a number of times and had other weird things that happened to them. So if that's your bag, if you like lesbians and time slips, then maybe go and listen to this episode.
So a month or two ago, my boyfriend and I were on a walk and we came across this treehouse, okay? I've lived in the same house my entire life, so for 20 years. I've walked in this area a million times, I've taken pictures here, and I've never seen this treehouse before. I brought it up to my parents, they've never seen the treehouse. So we were like, what the heck? And we go up to the treehouse, we start like poking around. Whoever's treehouse this is, like, didn't want people in it, I guess. The rope ladder was like thrown up into it, so my boyfriend had to climb up to pull the rope ladder down for us to climb up in it and like poke around. I don't want to say the treehouse looks 50 years old, but it's definitely not new. Like, I would have seen it before if it was here. Someone in my family would have seen it. The wood is kind of rotted and there's old, freaky, spooky toys on the floor. Like the beheaded doll in the middle of the floor. There's also like rusty tin boxes and stuff. It was just a spooky vibe, you know, never seen this thing. It's full of old, like, dirty, freaky toys. So I make the joke, like, LOL, what if we're in a horror movie, like, we're the only ones who can see the treehouse and it just disappears, like, we come back and it's gone. The treehouse is not there. I immediately called my dad. I'm like, remember that time I told you about that? And he was like, yeah, but I never went and looked at it. So no one has seen this treehouse except my boyfriend and I. So anyway, here is the location. That is what it looked like. And I'm fixing to go show you that spot right now. So this is where it was. It would have been between these two trees right here. In this video, you can see where it's wedged between the trees. I would have set my phone like right about here to take that video. And as you can see, there's not a treehouse. The only logical thing I can think of is someone built a treehouse with old dirty wood and then filled it with old dirty toys and then tore it down. But I think this is public land, so who would do that? Like, the city wouldn't do. If you've seen the treehouse, please message me.
What the fuck? She posted that on Friday the 13th, by the way. And I got that video sent to me so many times. I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's a freaky glitch of the Matrix. She literally said that she's lived there for 20 years and has never once seen this treehouse. And the only people who did see the treehouse were her and her boyfriend. She told her family and her friends they never saw this treehouse. And then when she went back, the treehouse was gone. That's fucking creepy, you guys. There's been some weird glitches. I also want to show you this. Where does the guy in the red come from? Look at over here. Let's play it again. I've watched this so many times, and in the comments, people are like, I have no idea. Where did he come from? He just pops up out of the blue. Anyway, I think our Matrix is glitching, or we're entering alternate universes. I mean, CERN did get turned back on, so some weird shit is happening. And we're at the end of the disintegration process, which means that anything that has happened in the past can happen again. So nothing should surprise us anymore.
Top 10 glitches in the Matrix from my comment section, part 9. Get ready, because these are really weird. I once went to pick up a book I let my sister borrow. The bookmark she also borrowed fell to the floor when I picked up the book. And when I went to pick it up, it was completely gone. Went home and it was sitting on my coffee table. Driving to work when suddenly a voice shouted, "Put your seatbelt on now!" I did it immediately, and when I did, my right front tire blew into pieces. I was alone in the car and the belt saved me. Was walking my 8-year-old daughter home from school and crossed the street near the house. Halfway across, it was blurry and confusing for a moment, and then we were on a corner far from home. We looked at each other in silence for a moment, and she said, "Dad, I think we just teleported." We walked and talked about it. We both had clear memories of passing landmarks before the portal shift. One time, I was driving and wandering through back roads with some friends at night. We went down this dirt path, and at the end of the road, there was this legit stereotypical Scooby-Doo type abandoned house, so we get kind of spooked and turned around. When we left, the road looked different, and after like 10 minutes of driving away, we ended up back at the end of the road where the house was. Still can't explain it. When my children were small, I was sitting impatiently at a railroad crossing with no gate, but the lights were flashing. I decided to go across the tracks because I didn't see any train. Suddenly, I felt an invisible arm across my chest and full pressure on my foot on the brake. I sort of zoned out, and in an instant, a very high-speed passenger train flew by. No way I would have made it that night. I brought my earbuds to a scout event. I put them in an extra pair of socks I was bringing so my mom wouldn't see them. I didn't use them and kept them in the sock the whole time. When I came back home, I only had the case, but couldn't find the earbuds anywhere. A few weeks go by, and I see them sitting on my driveway. Alright, so I've read a few stories now about lost items being returned on driveways, so I'm guessing we have an interdimensional mailman type being that's just returning glitched out objects. Moving on. My brother lost his combination lock for his locker at home, and we looked everywhere for it for months. One day, he had a dream that he had found it, and the next day, he looked where he had found it in the dream, and lo and behold, the combination lock was in the toy box, right at the top. And we had looked there many times before because we play with those toys often. When I was in high school, I'd sit in the front seat passenger side beside the driver because of bullies. I was doing this for many months, and the bus driver never told me to wear my seatbelt. One day, I get on the bus, and the driver turns to me and says, "Put on your seatbelt." It was strange, but I did it. A whole lot later, a car drove into the side of the bus. That seatbelt kept me from being flung from the vehicle. Why is it so hard to put your seatbelt on? Just wear your seatbelt. You're supposed to. I mean, I get it if it's a bus, because buses don't really have seatbelts. So, if you have one, wear one. One night, I woke up because I heard a loud bang. I turned my light on and my metal water bottle was gone. I sleep with my door and windows locked. I looked everywhere, under my bed, in my drawers, etc. I left my room to check downstairs, and when I came back, my water bottle was on the bedside table. And at number 10. Okay, my glitch in the Matrix was me and my cousin were living together with my mom, and we stayed up one night later talking, and I had a window right above my bed. Out the window is a small field and an abandoned gas station on the other side. The field had a tree in the middle. We looked out the window. Me and her both watched a large plane crash into the field into the tree. No sound, no people, but we both saw it crash and burst into flames. We closed the curtain and then reopened it, and nothing was there. Even when we went outside the next day to that exact spot, we found nothing. All right, timelines must just be mashing together, because how do you explain any of that? We need some explanations. Like now.
That plane one was definitely weird. My biggest thing was like, he said something like, always put your seatbelt on. It's crazy because like in a normal car, you always have to have your seatbelt on. And now even in like some parts of the America, you have to have it on in the back seat. But in a school bus, there's like 1,000 kids no seatbelt anywhere. So I'm just like, dude.
I don't even know how to say this, but I experienced a glitch in the Matrix funeral edition. And honestly, this is probably one of the craziest, most unexplainable events in my entire life. I am losing sleep over it. So I'm asking somebody to please take notes and help me understand this, because like, I literally just can't.
Sometimes this little reality of ours glitches out, and people call these experiences glitches in the Matrix. There's nothing I love more than scrolling through TikTok and hearing people's glitch in the Matrix stories. So today I'm sharing my favorites with all of you. Enjoy and keep the lights on.
So 2 months ago, I make funeral arrangements with the family. They have a cremation and they order 50 prayer cards. 50 prayer cards. Now the cards they picked out were so unique, so rare, so beautiful. I'd never even seen them before, don't carry them. I had to order them custom made from a third-party vendor, in which I did. They mailed them to me. Now I held on to those prayer cards and the cremated remains for about 2 months, until last week, on Friday, when the family called because they wanted to pick them up. So they come in, they pick them up. I'm like, oh, when are you having your service? They said they're going to do something on Sunday, which is in 2 days. I was like, oh, that's really nice. Where are you having it? They were like, we haven't decided it yet. You know, Aunt Ida was really old and she kind of outlived all of her friends, so we'll figure it out. I'm like, great. You know, I hope it's beautiful and so on and so forth. I didn't go, wasn't invited, didn't keep in touch, whatever. Now Monday rolls around, okay? So that was Friday, now we're on Monday. And I get a message from a restaurant who had called and they were asking why we mailed them prayer cards. I didn't mail any restaurant prayer cards. Like, what is this about? I call them back. I'm like, why do you think I mailed you prayer cards? She was like, because your ad is on them. You know, we put the funeral home ad on the prayer cards. I was like, no, I didn't mail you anything. What is the return address on the envelope? She said there was none. I'm like, well, that's weird. I don't know. I was like, what is the name of the deceased? You know, she says it's Aunt Ida. I was like, well, that's weird. I was like, I gave the family those cards on Friday. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they mailed them to you. Like maybe I thought maybe they didn't have their service on Sunday. I don't really know. I just know I didn't do it. So I was like, they'll figure it out. Later that day, I get a phone call from the daughter of Aunt Ida. She's like, Melissa, why did you mail the restaurant prayer cards? I was like, I didn't. It's like, I talked to the restaurant. I explained her the same thing I explained to you. She was like, how did you know we went to that restaurant? I was like, I didn't know you went there. I didn't know anything. She said, yeah, we went there yesterday, which was Sunday. And I said, did you have the prayer cards that I gave you? She said, yeah, 50 of them. She said that she handed some out. She even had a few extra. I was like, okay, that's weird. I said, you know, when you go to the restaurant and pick up those prayer cards that were mailed to you, can you give me a call? Because I'm thinking the prayer cards have to be different. Maybe like a friend or something found out that was the restaurant, ordered them, they came late. I don't know, but there had to be a reasonable explanation. Well, she goes and she gets them and she calls me. And the prayer cards, the custom prayer cards that I had ordered from a third-party company, they were exactly the same, identical. Add on it and everything. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. I'm like, return address? She said no. But the post, you know, like when it goes to the post office, was a zip code that wasn't near either of us. So I was like, or the company I ordered it from, like totally different county. I was like, this is really weird. So we were just like, wow, unexplainable. But I don't let things go. I don't let things go. So I called the company because now I'm thinking maybe there's a chance that like, I don't know, somebody in the office ordered it and like somehow magically knew the restaurant and mailed them. Like that would be crazy, but there's gotta be some kind of reasonable explanation that there is more than 50 identical prayer cards, right? Well, here's what happens.
Right, so yeah, you got 50 the last time.
And there was never a reorder put in?
No, there was not.
Long pause.
Okay. You know,
so mean.
Can I just tell you something really quick?
So if you follow me, you understand that only 50 prayer cards were ever ordered. Custom prayer cards were ever ordered. Family picked them up on Friday. They had their celebration on Sunday. They handed some out. They had a few extra. Monday morning rolls around and there is 50 identical prayer cards that show up to the restaurant that they only chose on Saturday night. She literally has more than 50 prayer cards in her possession. And to be honest, they didn't need an additional 50 prayer cards. Me and Ida's daughter have literally exhausted any, even the wildest, craziest reason how this could happen. It's impossible. Make it make sense. Mwah!
I cannot make sense. Still, what happened this morning? Okay, so I'm out of town, staying at a hotel because I'm here for a work function. But our meetings start at 10 a.m. It's 7:10 this morning. My alarm goes off. I'm like, I need a couple more minutes. I put my phone down. I roll back over. All of a sudden, I can feel my phone in my hand. Like, almost as if it was placed in my hand. You know? I'm like, the fuck? So I roll over. My phone is, in fact, in my hand. I know. I did... I click the side of my phone. It says 11:30. Bitch, I jump out of bed so fast. So fast. And I look like one of those cartoon characters that are like getting pinged, like bing, bing, because I have no idea what to do with myself. Immediately, give the manager a call. And he's like, hi, buddy, good morning. And I'm like, good morning. He goes, hey, you good? And I was like, well, it's 11:30, and I'm not there. He goes, what do you know? You're early as usual. Because I always arrive early. This is 7:30 in the morning. I doubt this man has even left his house. He's having breakfast with his family. And then he proceeds to tell me, like, the time of the day of the week. And I'm like, like, I'm looking at my phone, my guy. It says 11:30. What? There's another person here for the same function, so I run to the window, and I look, and I see their car, and I'm like, well, there's no way they're late, too. Anyway, I hang up, I sit down, and I'm, like, trying to collect my thoughts. Like, what? Mind you, while we're on the phone, I take a screenshot. Because I'm like, I'm looking at 11:30. Take a screenshot. After I sit down, I can't log back into my phone. It will not let me. So I turn it off. When I go to squeeze my phone to turn it back on, it falls on the floor face down. I lean down near my phone, pick it back up, and it's on. Like, not turning on, whatever. It's on. And it says 7:30. I log into my phone, immediately go to my pictures, no screenshot. Like, is this a traumatic event? Absolutely not. Does it not make any fucking sense? Absolutely. And I don't accept this. What happened?
Stay spooky, friends.
Proof that we live in a simulation. I have literally found my simulation twin. Like, we were cut from the same cloth, made from the same template, whatever you want to call it, because she is living my life out in California.
Now, this video comes from Julia Wang HTX, and she has a simulation twin. There's really just no other way to put it.
And when I first heard that, I was like, okay, so you have someone in your life who lives an incredibly similar life to you. But just listen to these coincidences between her and her simulation twin, because I'm telling you, by the end of this, I was like, oh, you have a simulation twin.
Some background info. So I live in Houston, Texas. My simulation twin, her name is Caroline. She lives in California, and we've known each other for a while because we both grew up in Dallas, and so we have a lot of mutual friends. But it wasn't until recently where we discovered how similar and how eerily similar our lives are. So this is my family right here. I'm actually Korean, and I'm married to a Taiwanese man, and he is a tech entrepreneur. He started several tech companies and he develops software. So our kids, we have 3 kids. They're obviously half Taiwanese, half Korean. I have Cameron. She is the oldest. She's 8 years old. Jordan, he is my middle child. And then my son, Atlas, he is 11 weeks old. So this is Caroline's beautiful family, and Caroline is Korean like I am, and she's also married to a Taiwanese man who happens to be in tech, and a lot of Asians are in tech, so that's not that big of a deal. But she has 3 kids, and her oldest is a girl, and then it's followed by 2 boys, just like me. And the age difference between her kids are the same as mine. So her daughter is named Charlotte. My daughter is named Cameron. Her middle son is named Jacob. My son is named Jordan. So yeah, it's not the same name, but it starts with the same letter. And then her youngest is named Chance. And while my son is named Atlas, she actually messaged me saying that Atlas was one of the names that they were considering because her son, her middle son, apparently likes maps a lot. And Atlas is not like a common name. Like no one I know is named Atlas. So the fact that she was considering that name is crazy. So we're both the oldest in our family. I have a sister. She has a brother. So my sister, Nina, she went to Pratt Art School in New York. If you know Pratt, it's like a very small, hard to get into art school in New York. And her brother went to Pratt. So my husband is the only child, the golden son, and he unfortunately lost his father to cancer a couple years ago. And my simulation twin, her husband is also the only child, and he lost his mother to cancer the same year. And we both drive a minivan, and not only just a minivan, but we drive the Toyota Pacifica hybrid minivan. And what's crazy is like, I actually got this minivan as part of a collab with Driveway. So the fact that she owns that is crazy. To me, this is not a coincidence. Like, we have way too many similarities and very specific similarities. And I really feel like we were like made from the same template, character template for this simulation. But I don't know, call me crazy. What do you guys think?
How crazy is that? The same kids, the kids were what really got me. They both had a daughter and then 2 sons, and the first 2 kids for both of them had the same first letter of their names, and then their babies were almost named the exact same thing. It's literally almost like Julia can get a glimpse into an alternate reality, one where she doesn't live where she does, but she's instead gallivanting off in California, but also not, because they live such similar lives. They have such a similar story. I don't know. This one was kind of sweet to me though. I think I'd like having a simulation twin so I could just like peek in and see like an alternate version of my life.
Simulation twin. I don't know. I feel like they just had like a very close situation in life. I mean, they say there's no coincidences, but that situation kind of seems like a coincidence to me.
You guys, something really weird just happened to me and I'm kind of freaked out. Like, just listen.
This poster had a crazy time glitch that I just can't explain. So our poster, the librarian, she works at a Barnes and Noble, and she's just working earlier on this day when she sees one of her coworkers walking out, and she's like, "Are you heading out for the day?" And the coworker says yes. And our poster looks down at her analog watch. Remember this, it's an analog watch on her wrist. And it says that it is 1:58 and she's clocking out at 2. So she tells her coworker, "I'm clocking out in 2 minutes." And that's where this glitch in the matrix begins.
So then I went to go clock out and a customer stopped me and they were like, "Can you help me?" So I was like, "Yeah, blah, blah, blah. What are you looking for?" So then I walked all the way to the back to the kids section, from the front of the store to the back, after talking to a customer, after talking to my coworker, and giving her a hug. So I go to like type in what the customer is looking for. Sorry, you guys, I'm like really freaked out. I went to type in what the customer was looking for and I looked at my clock because I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be off. It was still 1:58. It was still 1:58.
So she's gonna talk about more like why this is so crazy, but I just want you to remember. She looks down at her watch, realizes it's 1:58. She walks like back and forth in the store, talks to a customer, does all of this stuff, goes to the computer, and it says 1:58. And my first thought was maybe your watch was slow, whatever, but she looks down at her watch and it's still 1:58.
So I was so deeply unsettled. I was like, no. And I was like, did my watch stop? Did my watch stop? So then I looked on the computer terminal and it said 1:58 too. So I remember saying out loud, I was like, this is weird. This is really weird. So then I kept staring at my watch. And then a lady came over to me, she talked to me, and I typed something else in. And then I looked at my watch again, and it finally said 1:59. You guys, my internal clock is pretty good. I know more than 1 minute passed for me to do all of that. There's no way that it remained 1:58 to 1:58, and then I sat there looking at my clock and it was still 1:58. Y'all, there's no way. Like, did time stop? Did anybody else experience something like this around this time? It takes me about a minute to walk from the front to the back in a meandering style, let alone talk to a customer, talk to a coworker, and look something up and walk. It was 1:58 for like 2 to 3 minutes. That's what I'm saying to you guys. It was 1:58 for like 2 to 3 minutes when it should not have been 1:58. Anyways, y'all, I am not okay because that was weird. By the way, it's a digital watch. It's not analog. The computer terminal said the same thing.
I'm sorry, but when you work retail, I feel like you just know every single minute that passes by. And this poster in particular, the reason this story is so fascinating to me is that she seems so genuinely rattled by it. Look, could she have maybe misread her watch? I guess so. That would pretty much be the only logical explanation here if she's positive that all of these things took more than a minute, which it just, again, sounds like logically it would, but I don't know. She seems so freaked out by it, and I think that freaks me out more. This isn't the kind of content that this poster makes, like, at all, by the way. So I really want to know what you guys think. Did she experience a time glitch where time just stood still for a full minute? Or was this something else? And if it was something else, what was it?
In my head, I feel like it could be one of like 3 things. The first one, the time could have been 1:53, and then she accidentally read it as 1:58. The second one is it could have been 1:56, and she read it as 1:58. And the third one is there was some sort of glitch that happened, and it wasn't necessarily just like a glitch in the Matrix. It was like a glitch on her watch or a glitch of like her internal clock. I don't really think, like, I don't know, that one's kind of feel like controversial because like there's too much things and variables that could have happened that made her think that like the time froze, you know what I'm saying?
Did you know there was a guy who hacked into NASA and found proof we're not alone? His name was Gary McKinnon. He didn't work for NASA. He wasn't in the military. He was just some guy from England in his bedroom, smoking pot on a dial-up connection. And in 2001, he broke into the most secure military networks on Earth, NASA, the US Space Command. No backdoor, no exploit, just a broken Windows terminal with no firewall. And what he found? A folder labeled non-terrestrial officers with names, ranks, transfer logs, and ship-to-ship assignments. But these weren't naval ships. They weren't on Earth, and they weren't even in the atmosphere. Then he opened the image, a raw satellite photo, uncompressed, still loading line by line. At first, stars, then Earth, then a massive cigar-shaped craft hovering above the planet. No panels, no seams, no heat signature, just a smooth metallic object floating silently. He tried to save it, but before he could, his screen froze. The connection died, and in that moment, he knew they saw him. 2 years later, he was arrested. No weapons, no stolen data, no money taken, just one thing. He saw something they didn't want anyone to see. The US tried to extradite him, said he caused $700,000 in damage, called him the biggest military hacker in history. He faced 70 years in prison. But even with everything on the line, he never changed his story. He said they're hiding reverse-engineered alien machines. And the one thing they deny most, proof we're not alone.
Let's talk about the shrimp living in New York City's tap water. A type of plankton resembling tiny shrimp. They're called copepods, and they've been swimming in New York City tap water for years. 2 to 3 in each cup you drink. There's a benefit to having the little guys around. Feeding on larvae, they prevent mosquito infestations among other diseases. So you might be thinking, doesn't the city filter its water supply? Not filtering the water is actually a point of pride for many New Yorkers, but it's not without controversy. Many kosher households install filters to remove the tiny residents because for the hundreds of thousands of Orthodox Jews, they're not supposed to have crustaceans. But before you get grossed out, experts confirm they pose no risk to human health, and many consider New York City tap water to be some of the best in the world for culinary purposes. When you take a sip, you can appreciate the quirky nature of the Big Apple and its trillions of microscopic characters. Just another reason New York is truly a one-of-a-kind city.
He said, before you get terrified, just know that these microscopic shrimps are not unhealthy for you. I'm like, dude, that doesn't stop the fact that I still think it's absolutely disgusting.
Watch what this bear does fresh out of hibernation.
How's it going? Hey, you're a brown bear, huh? You're looking pretty brown. YOLO? You don't even care, huh? Really? Holy snakes. No thank you. What can I do for you? Wow.
Bears hibernation is one of the most interesting things that happen in the wild because these bears can go 100 days or sometimes more than 100 days without eating, without drinking, without going to the bathroom. Their bodies just go into this regulation mode where it reuses the waste. So it's kind of like a cruise control for their body. And the fact that bears can just literally almost sleep for 100 days and nothing really changes on them kind of blows my mind. Something that's interesting about hibernation is when bears emerge out of it, whether it's 80 days, whether it's 100 days, research has shown that when bears come out of that, yes, they lose like the fat around their muscle, but they don't lose much muscle mass, which is pretty interesting. Also, cubs are born during hibernation a lot of the time. So while these mothers are in their dens going through this hibernation phase, they will still have cubs. So I just think hibernation is crazy interesting. If you know anything about hibernation that I might not have covered here, drop it in the comments.
Did you know a nurse injected herself with blood from dead patients for 8 months, believing it would make her immortal? Nancy Rodriguez was a 12-year veteran ICU nurse at Mercy Hospital, known for her exceptional care and stable mind. But in 2023, after witnessing too many deaths, something inside her snapped. She became obsessed with the idea that death held secrets, that life essence could be transferred. During night shifts, she began sneaking into the morgue, drawing blood from fresh corpses. She kept detailed journals, recording every injection, every sensation, every change she imagined in her body. Her colleagues noticed her pale skin and strange energy, but nobody suspected the truth. Security footage later revealed her midnight visits to the morgue. For months, she collected blood from 23 different bodies, labeling each vial carefully. Her final injection came from a patient who died of a rare blood disease. They found her in the supply closet, her body convulsing as incompatible blood types destroyed her from within. Her collection of labeled vials told the horrifying story.
Here's one thing I don't do as a neurologist, and that is ignoring neurological symptoms after a cat scratch. I once saw a teenage patient who developed sudden confusion, severe headaches, and trouble walking. Her parents noticed she'd been unusually tired and clumsy over the few days before they brought her to the hospital, which worsened until she could barely stand. During her exam, we also noticed a decrease in her vision in one eye. Further testing showed that there was inflammation of the optic nerve and the retina, which explained her vision loss. Usual suspects like stroke, meningitis, and autoimmune disease were ruled out. It wasn't until we noticed a few scratches on her arm that we asked about any recent injuries or exposures, and that's when her mother mentioned they had recently adopted a kitten. This detail was key because this led to further tests which confirmed Bartonella Hensley infection, which is the bacteria that causes cat scratch disease. Now, most people with this infection experience mild symptoms like swollen lymph nodes, fever, and fatigue, but in rare cases, this condition can affect the nervous system and the eyes. Fortunately, with antibiotics and supportive care, her neurological symptoms and vision gradually improved. This case is a reminder that even something as seemingly harmless as a playful scratch can in rare cases lead to serious.
I know that many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House Medical Unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency. Recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health.
It appears President Trump is about to kick the bucket. I'm talking about one final permanent beep from his heart rate monitor, as health experts across the world are raising genuine concern over the president's health after multiple different events in recent memory have painted a different picture of the president's health than this administration is letting on. From Trump's meeting with the World Cup president, where he spent most of the time making sure to cover up his hand, to cover up all the foundation on his hand, meant to cover up all the bruising from the IV drips he's been getting, and not all the handshakes he gives out like Carolyn Levitt likes to tell. From when he was in Alaska, where it seemed like he was a bowling ball going down a lane with bumpers up as he was just going boing, 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 trying to walk down that red carpet, unable to walk even the semblance of a straight line, most likely because his cankles continue to swell up like grapefruits because he's unable to get blood flow from his legs back up to what people call a heart. And that's also why they've been hiding him behind the Resolute desk more often during press conferences so that people can't snap photos of his feet. But almost the most telling sign is Trump hasn't been golfing in 13 days, which is highly unusual for him. He's one day away from breaking his all-time record of time spent not golfing while president.
A man suddenly received a shocking confession from his best buddy. As a straight guy, he rejected him right away. But the friend didn't give up. That very night, he broke into the man's house. After exhausting him unconscious, he carried him straight to the hospital, where he had already arranged a secret surgery. Only when he saw the man being wheeled into the operating room did the friend finally leave with relief. The next day, the man slowly woke up. As he tried to sit up, a sharp pain shot through his lower body. Confused, he pulled back the blanket, and right then his best buddy walked in, holding flowers, dropping to one knee. "I've already hired a lawyer. From now on, you have no choice but to be with me."
Dude, that's gotta be the most insane story I've ever heard in the last year. Like this whole year, that's probably the most insane story I've ever heard.
Yeah, this wasn't a PR stunt. Oh my God. Lil Nas X is now facing years, yes, years in prison, as he's been charged with 4 different felonies for his little stunt in Los Angeles at 4 a.m. about a week ago, a little less than a week ago, where he was running around naked and in his underwear, seemingly on drugs. He was reported for an overdose as well. I think he's okay, though. 1 or 2 of the felonies are for battery with injury on a police officer, which, that's not good. That is really bad. Battery on a police officer is bad, but battery with injury? That means he injured the cop. Now, we don't have the body cam footage or anything like that right now to examine specifically what happened and give our own opinions and thoughts on it. But right now, just looking at the felony charges and what's been written out for him, this is not good. A lot of people thought this potentially could be a PR stunt at first, but now, clear as day, right? Definitely not a PR stunt. We will continue to update you guys on this as soon as we get more information, or as soon as I get more information, but this is not good.
Hey, Lil Nas, how are you doing? How are you holding up?
That's crazy. There was literally a video of him walking around LA naked at 4 a.m. in the morning. Isn't that crazy? Apparently he OD'd. At first I thought it was a stunt, and I kind of still think it is a stunt. According to a lot of these people, they're like, no, it's not a stunt. He might actually serve prison time. So I'm like, Hey dude, whatever you're going through, you need to figure it out.
We have some crazy things going on in the world right now. Russia is cutting electricity and internet after 10 p.m. in order to boost their birth rates. A 23-year-old is preparing to become the first human on Mars, and she's never going to return to Earth. In China, people are paying $4 a day to pretend they have jobs. Some are renting fake offices, some are posing as CEOs, all just to hide their unemployment from their families. Denmark has officially raised its retirement age to 70, which is the highest in Europe. Nancy Pelosi is now worth $264 million, while serving 38 years in Congress with an annual salary of $223,000. A former Doge engineer says that federal waste and fraud were relatively non-existent. China is digging the deepest hole on planet Earth. Tesla's new Cyber Quad is a $1,650 quad bike for kids. A billionaire passed away after swallowing a bee at a polo match. A woman discovered that her husband thought White Claws were energy drinks, and he's been drinking one on the way to work every single day, meaning he's been pre-gaming his 9 to 5.
So this cruise ship wrecks, and the captain abandons it, and he leaves about 4,000 people there to die. Now, the captain's name is Francesco, and Francesco is 51 years old, living in Italy, and dude is the captain of this big-ass cruise ship that operates off the coast of Italy called the Costa Concordia. And one night in 2012, Francesco is piloting this boat with over 4,000 passengers and crew on board. And that is when he gets this idea that's gonna change his life forever. He decides he's gonna perform a sail-by salute. And that is when ships will sail really close to land, and sometimes they'll blow the horn. It's called a sail-by salute. And this will give everyone on the boat a cool view of the island they're passing, and I guess he's just trying to show off. And since he thinks this is gonna be impressive, he invites a woman up to the bridge of the ship to watch the whole thing. But not just any woman, it's this woman, who we'll call Mistress, because she just happens to be Francesco's mistress, who is half his age. And this is an actual picture of her, just straight up looking like a mistress. And Francesco's married, by the way. So of course he's smashing with this much younger woman on the side. And because they're smashing, she's on this cruise for free. So she's humping the captain, so there is no charge for the buffet or whatever. Anyway, so Francesco wants to get the ship close to this island so that he can show off, and he decides he wants to do this sail-by salute manually. Which he doesn't have to do it manually. Cruise ships are very technologically advanced, but I guess using that technology doesn't make him look very badass in front of his mistress. So he turns off the alarm for the computer navigation system. And under normal circumstances, this alarm would warn him if he were to get too close to shore or whatever. But I guess Francesco doesn't really care. So there he is on the bridge of the ship, chatting up his mistress, trying to flex and explain to her how incredible it is that he's steering the boat manually instead of using the navigation system, and he's the only one who's a good enough captain to be able to do such a thing because he knows the area super well and everything's definitely gonna be okay and the boat is totally not gonna crash. Until Francesco really screws up. He forgot his reading glasses, so I guess he can't really see what any of his instruments are saying. And I don't know if it's like too late to run and get them, or he just doesn't want to be seen in them, but he doesn't go and get them, and I guess he's also distracted by looking at his mistress, who is looking all fine, I guess. So he just keeps asking the first officer to check the radar to make sure the ship is good. So pretty quickly, they're in the middle of this sail-by salute, and they're moving close to the island, and suddenly, boom, he sees waves breaking on the rocks, and he's like, Mamma mia, because he realizes that he has misjudged the distance. He's not supposed to be this close to the rocks. So he tries to steer and swing the ship to the side to avoid it. But unfortunately, it's too late. And kapow! He scrapes the hull of the ship across the rocks, and this rips a massive 164-foot hole in it. And down below, the head of the engine room calls up and he's like, yeah, we got a problem down here. There's a big ass gash in the side of the ship. And water is just pouring in, and it has submerged the generators and the engines. And now there's no propulsion and no backup electric power, and some of the instruments are failing. And so then, boom, the power goes out. So now all the passengers are suddenly sitting in darkness. And to make it worse, all this water coming in shifts the weight of the ship and makes the whole thing start tilting to one side. And of course the passengers are panicking at this point because most of the power is out and the boat is leaning and they're like, what the hell is happening here? And so the ship is slowly sinking to its side and it eventually comes to rest in more shallow waters as it runs up on the ground. But water is still rushing in. So Francesco immediately starts freaking out because he knows he really screwed up. He tells one of the crew just to let the Coast Guard know that they only experienced a little blackout and that they don't really need assistance. This is no big deal. And they also make an announcement to the passengers telling them not to panic and that everything is fine. However, obviously everything is not fine. And about an hour goes by. And some of the passengers finally report the wreck to Port Authority. And a little bit after that, Francesco gives the passengers and crew the order to evacuate. So basically, the passengers are ordered to put on their life vests and head toward the lifeboats, but to be calm about it. However, as time goes on, the ship keeps tilting more and more. And that makes it hard to launch the lifeboats. And you can actually see the ship tilting here. And now eventually, the whole boat tilts over on its side. Now, this is an actual photo of it taken the next day at daylight. And here's another picture, and here's another one. I mean, look at that. That looks insane. Now, at this point in the story, people are still evacuating, and it's all chaos. I mean, there are over 4,000 passengers and crew on this thing, so this is not a fast process. And a good ship captain would be leading this effort to get his passengers to safety, and he would be on the ship until everything was handled. Because, you know, like a good captain goes down with his ship. I believe that's the saying. Here's the thing, though. Francesco is just not that guy. And he takes a very different approach. He's like, fuck all this, and he gets in a lifeboat and he is sailing away to safety toward the harbor. Now, somehow, the Coast Guard gets in touch with him, I guess by radio. And the Coast Guard is pissed. They're like, where the hell are you? And Francesco tells them that he had accidentally left his ship because he, and I'm not making this up, fell into a lifeboat. And that lifeboat made its way to the harbor where he is now safe. And the Coast Guard is like, you're the fucking captain! Get the hell back on your ship! Help people evacuate! Because, like, this is a serious matter. The ship is on its side. They need to know how many people are still on board. If those people need help, what kind of help do they need? Are people dead? Like, these are things a captain is supposed to know. And so Francesco tells them that he's trying to get back on the ship, but in fact, he is not. Not only did he make it to land at this point, but he was actually one of the first people to make it to land, beating all the other passengers. He's like, oh, f*** all this, I'm getting out of here. And he beat everyone there. And so anyway, a police officer sees Francesco and he runs up to him and he offers to get him a small boat to return to the ship to help the passengers evacuate. And Francesco is like, nah, I'm good. Meanwhile, there are people from the island, like actual pedestrians, sailing out there in whatever vessels they own to try and help the passengers off this boat. And between that and the Coast Guard sending ships and helicopters, they are ultimately able to help most of the people evacuate safely. But unfortunately, some people do drown, some people get injured from the ship tilting, and some people get trapped. And in total, 32 people don't make it. And so the next day, bam, Captain Francesco is arrested. And I don't have a mugshot, but here's a real life picture of him. And he eventually goes to trial and he's found guilty of manslaughter, causing a shipwreck, and abandoning a vessel. I didn't even know that was illegal, but he gets sentenced to 16 years in prison.
I don't want to be that guy, but that's literally D1 proof that women are the downfall of men. It's over. I said it. Nah, I'm joking. But like, that captain is so stupid, dude. And it's crazy because I see this video a couple months before I'm about to go on a cruise. Now it's like, do I even really want to go on a cruise?
Did you know your brain can literally become addicted to people who hurt you? It's called intermittent reinforcement, and it creates stronger neural pathways than healthy relationships. When someone treats you badly, then suddenly shows kindness, your brain releases more dopamine than consistent love ever could. The unpredictable rewards trigger the same chemical response as gambling or drugs. Your amygdala hijacks rational thinking during these cycles, making you crave the chaos despite knowing it's harmful. The trauma bond becomes so powerful that victims often return to their abusers repeatedly. Our survival instincts misinterpret this unpredictability as passion and excitement. What feels like intense love is actually your brain trapped in an addiction cycle.
Sounds like all of my exes.
Bob Marley didn't die from cancer. He was infected on purpose. In 1976, Bob Marley survived an assassination attempt. 2 days later, he still got on stage singing about peace. But not everyone wanted peace. He was more than a musician. He was a movement, and movements scare governments. In 1977, a strange man gifted Marley a pair of boots. When Bob tried them on, he screamed. Inside was a copper wire hidden like a trap. Soon after, doctors found a rare cancer under his toenail. Aggressive, fast, spreading. CIA documents later revealed Operation Chaos, a secret plan to disrupt black political leaders worldwide. Marley, with his influence, his defiance, his voice was a threat. His health declined rapidly. In just a few years, his body shut down. He died at 36. But some insiders believe that wire in the boot wasn't random. It was a delivery system, poisoned, designed to infect, silent, undetectable. Bob never stopped singing, but his voice faded right when the world needed it most. They didn't just want to kill the man, they wanted to silence the message. But Bob Marley became immortal, and his revolution still echoes.
Yeah, I've heard about that because, you know what I'm saying, I'm Jamaican, so like, it's obviously history for us. I'm playing, but yeah. I feel like it was more the fact that yes, there was a wire in the boot, and like that probably might have given him the cancer, but it also was more so the fact that he didn't want to seek treatment. Like they were telling him, yo, get treated, cut the toe off, like take medication, and he didn't want to do it because he believed that whatever happened, it was God's, you know what I'm saying, because of his religion. So I feel like his death could have been prevented, but he kind of delayed the process until it started to spread all over his body.
Okay, guys, people are absolutely furious right now because, okay, so a few hours ago, Israel bombed a hospital in Gaza. And when the first responders arrived, including journalists, ambulance crews, etc., Israel bombed this hospital for a second time. And this was all captured on live TV. At least 20 people were killed in this double hit, including 5 journalists who worked for international media, including Reuters, AP, Al Jazeera, and also other people killed included health workers and emergency response crews. Now, the first strike hit a balcony that was reportedly used by reporters to have an elevated view, and then the second attack, which was just minutes later, hit ambulance crews and emergency responders. Israel have said in response to all of this, they do not target journalists and they regret any harm to uninvolved individuals.
Since all taste buds can detect the 5 basic tastes, coffee doesn't stunt your growth. Reading in dim light doesn't cause permanent eye damage. It can only cause eye strain. Houseflies don't have a lifespan of 24 hours. They usually live for about 20 to 30 days. There is no historical evidence to support the claim that Vikings drank from the skulls of their enemies. The Earth's core is not molten lava, it's liquid metal, mostly iron and nickel, but the inner core is solid metal. Mount Everest isn't the closest point to space. Due to the equatorial bulge, the summit of Mount Chimborazo in Ecuador is the farthest point from the Earth's center, and thus closer to space than Mount Everest. Houseplants don't increase indoor oxygen levels significantly. They increase it in really small amounts, which does not really make a difference. Dogs' mouths aren't cleaner than humans' mouths. They both contain a large amount of bacteria, and neither is necessarily cleaner than the other. The brand name Adidas is derived from the name of its founder, Adolf "Adi" Dassler, not from All Day I Dream About Sports. Microwaves don't cause cancer, since they use non-ionizing radiation, which does not have enough energy to remove tightly bound electrons or cause cancer. Listening to classical music doesn't make you smarter. The Mozart effect suggests that listening to Mozart may temporarily enhance spatial temporal reasoning, but it doesn't increase overall intelligence or long-term cognitive abilities. There is no historical evidence pinpointing December 25th as Jesus' exact birth date. This date was chosen by early Christians to coincide with existing pagan festivals. The sun isn't yellow, it emits white light, which appears yellow from Earth due to atmospheric scattering. Wolves don't howl at the moon, they howl to communicate with their pack. The association with the moon is likely due to wolves being more active and howling more during the night. Frogs don't remain in gradually heating water, they jump out. If they are placed in already boiling water, they immediately die. Mice aren't especially attracted to cheese over other foods. Rubbing urine on jellyfish hit spots doesn't relieve
This is everything that just happened on the news today, but I'm gonna simplify it for you in 60 seconds. The president just signed an executive order that says if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. So he signed this executive order that directs the Department of Justice to pursue 1 year in jail for those who burn American flags. There are literally companies right now that are working on an AI app that uses AI to translate what your cat and dog is saying to you. Okay. So they're saying that AI tools are now being developed to interpret the sounds of cats and dogs with the goal of translating meows and barks into clear, human understandable messages for worldwide users. Scientists have just managed to go 1 second back in time using a quantum computer. I'm gonna spare you all of the boring details. They said that this doesn't mean that time travel is gonna be available for humans yet, but it proves that the laws of physics can be manipulated at the quantum level. Whoa. These Chinese scientists are now developing a world's first pregnancy robot. They're saying that anybody that's struggling to conceive, you can hire a humanoid that will cost you about $14,000 and they will carry your baby for you. A literal AI robot. Dude, this is actually real right now. I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back to me tomorrow.
The title of this video is definitely not clickbait because I'm gonna be thinking about that all day. What do they mean by we can go 1 second behind in time via quantum computing? That proves so much now, because if we can do 1 second, you know how humans are, we gradually elevate. Eventually we're gonna be able to do years. That actually makes you rethink a lot of different things, really think about it. And the fact that we can now potentially with AI understand what dogs and cats are trying to say to us, that's a game changer, bro.
There is a trend going apparently in Asia where if people say the right words and do the right hand movements, they immediately summon a bolt of lightning. Let's watch an example, a demonstration.
风、火、雷、电、破。
So y'all remember how a few years ago everyone was losing their minds after they found out that like 30 to 50% of the population doesn't have an internal monologue and they started calling them NPCs? I can do you one better. I have something called Aphantasia, which basically means that I can't visualize anything in my mind. And here's what that looks like. There's a continuum of, you know, going from being able to see a full-blown apple to nothing. And that's me. So I went my entire life up until about 30 when I found out you motherfuckers can actually see shit in your head. Like the whole time, whenever someone was like, go visualize an apple, I just assumed it was a figure of speech. Like I was watching Family Guy and I'd see the little thought bubble over his head and like they were doing whatever. And I was like, oh, you know, that's the artistic way to explain, you know, a thought process. Oh, God. Yeah, so that's fucking cool. I guess you might have a few questions. How do I find things in my office or remember things in my car? I don't really know how to explain that to you. It's like associative or fact-based. Like I know I put things in a certain place. I know what things look like, but I just can't quite picture them per se. I could still dream. I see fine in my dreams. Everything is perfectly fine there, but for whatever reason, my visual components are just not fully there. I can draw, I can make art, but it does make it harder, I'm not gonna lie, because a lot of times I need to look at reference images and other things. But yeah, so in case you were wondering, there's, on top of people that don't have an internal monologue, there's also people out there that they don't see anything in their heads when they're thinking about it. It's weird, right?
Yo, is there anyone else watching this video that literally cannot see anything inside their heads? If you're one of those people, let me know down in the comments.
What the hell did we just watch? Raja Jackson, the 25-year-old son of UFC champion Rampage Jackson, just put a wrestler in the hospital after entering the ring, slamming him on the mat, knocking him unconscious, and then proceeding to punch him in the face over 20 times while he laid there motionless. And the backstory as to why he did this doesn't make it better, it makes it worse. You see, Raja is a kick streamer and professional UFC fighter, and he was going to be part of a wrestling event on Saturday night in Los Angeles. Videos show Raja out back of the venue with a number of workers when he meets the wrestler that he was scheduled to enter the ring with. This is Stuart Steve. He's a US veteran who suffers from PTSD, and he started wrestling in 2009 so he could focus on something while trying to re-enter civilian life. Now Raja and Stuart, they start to square up against each other when Stuart grabs a can and smashes it over Raja's head. Now this caused the situation to get heated, and Raja says, "I will F him up." He's held back by other wrestlers and told that Stu always thinks they're working and that he was trying to create a storyline for the match later. Now videos later show that Stuart apologized to Raja, saying that he saw the camera and he thought he was a worker. And Raja and his cameraman, they seemingly accept the apology, with the cameraman saying multiple times, "I get it now." Clearly, they did not. During Stu's match, Raja could be heard on the sidelines saying,
50 subs, knock him out.
After which he jumps in the ring, slams him, punches him multiple times, and half a dozen people enter the ring to try and restrain him, all of which was filmed live on Kick. Not to mention that there were kids in the crowd. Douglas Marlowe, one of the wrestlers who tried to stop Raja, said that Stuart had broken bones in his face and lost multiple teeth. Now there's even more footage after the event showing Raja walking away, saying that he's tired of people playing with him, and then he gets a call from someone named Andre telling him that Stuart, the wrestler, flatlined in the ring, to which he responded saying,
"My bad."
Now his dad, Rampage Jackson, has since made a statement saying, "I want to clear up the misinformation about my son Raja." He then proceeded to say that Raja was unexpectedly hit on the side of the head moments before Smith's match. He failed to mention, however, that Stuart apologized, and the two made up not moments, but hours before the event took place. The company also made a statement saying that in the 17 years of pro wrestling, there has never been anything as heinous take place as this. Now, as for Stuart Smith, he is awake and stable, but in bad condition, and people close to him say that this is going to be a long road to recovery. Kick has since banned Raja's account, and some are calling for him to be arrested and charged with attempted murder, but also for Kick themselves to be held accountable for allowing the stream to go on as long as it did. But as we know more, I'll keep you guys updated.
Yo, I saw that video right as it happened, and I can gladly say that dude definitely deserves to serve some time in prison. You know, he was giving me vibes like those people that got CTE and just can't control their anger. It's like, dude, what he did wasn't that deep, and he told you that, like, he thought you guys were acting, and he apologized, and then he still went and did that. Yeah, it was very sad, dude.
Space isn't real, and the whole reason why NASA stopped studying the ocean is because they found the devil down there. This is something I've been avoiding for such a long time, but it has weighed on my shoulders to the point where I cannot keep my mouth shut anymore. There is no way that space is real. And everybody involved in NASA and space launches and stuff work for the... Now let me explain a little bit where this came from and how this all started for me, because I am somebody who doesn't want this to be true. I want space to be real. I don't want the Earth to be flat. But the firmament is a real thing. So the first time I lived in Florida, I was living on the Space Coast. For you guys who don't know, it's a spot in Florida where like NASA and SpaceX are, where they launch rockets. Well, I ended up meeting a dude that worked there and got really cool with him. So one day he asked me if I wanted to go watch one of the rockets launch. So of course I said yes. This is like a childhood dream. This is one of the coolest things ever. And what I saw changed me forever. That stupid rocket turned. Yes, I'm telling you guys, if you've ever watched a rocket launch, I promise you it doesn't go up. It goes up and then it turns. It does not leave the atmosphere. It just turns and goes a different direction. That's it. That's all they ever do. They never go straight out. And if you don't believe me, fly your ass to Space Coast and go watch one. And so after seeing that, my childhood dreams are crushed. I can't get this out of my head. I've never been able to get away from it. But then also looking more into it and seeing that NASA initially started in the ocean and they got away from it, it all started to make sense and everything started to come together.
I feel like you can apply as above, so below to the fact that there are denser oceans within our oceans. Like, if you go into the ocean, there is another ocean on the floor of the ocean where it's so dense that we actually can't get through to that layer of water. So there's that dense layer where we can't even get through. Beings that probably are in there that are able to breathe that and be within those two separate places. And then there's the oceans where we have fish and they have gills and all of these other beings that can breathe through the water. We're not able to do that, but I feel like it's because it's lower. You know what I mean? But then I'm thinking, like, is land technically just not a less dense version of the oceans? Like, this is just less dense, but like this is technically like a type of water that we're breathing in a sense. And like we're just in our own ocean in a way. And then the reason why we're not able to breathe in space is because technically that would be like another ocean above, like the same reason why fish aren't able to breathe on land would be the same reason why we're not able to breathe in space. Because it just keeps stacking on top of each other, like different layers of different oceans or different waters. Because fish are swimming in the sea, and I don't think that they're aware that they're in water. Like, I feel like they're just seeing normally within the water. And that would be us on land. Like, we're seeing normally on the land. But if we jump into water, it looks a little blurred. It looks a little like there's water. You know what I mean? So if there were a higher dimensional being to come here and then look, would it seem to them like they were in water or something? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like it's different layers of denser waters to less dense waters, just continuing forever, like in layers. And that's part of what as above, so below means.
I definitely think that like space and the ocean are kind of similar in a way. That's exactly why, if you guys believe that NASA actually goes to space, that's exactly why NASA starts in the water with astronauts. They'll do like a lot of tests and stuff in the water, and then they'll move them to space because it has that same kind of feel to it. But I don't even know, dude. There's so many people that be like, oh yeah, NASA never went to space. NASA isn't real. NASA this, that. I don't even know what to believe at this point, bro. At this point, I'm just gonna believe whatever, whatever it is. But why would they fake it though? They're like a $1 billion company. Like billions of dollars of taxpayers' money go to like what? Them trying to portray some fake Hollywood scenes instead of actually going to space. That'd be crazy. We'd be going backwards instead of forwards with that one.
These are my confessions as a psychic medium, part infinity. Where is the afterlife? Well, it's all around you. And in fact, you're still in it. Remember, you have never ceased being a spirit, but yet you are also alive looking through this body at the same time. Did you know if you're a woman in this life, you were probably a man last life, and that's why you get along so well with the boys. The family that you were born into, you've had many lives with them, and essentially you're trying to play out karmatic differences. Learn what they are so you don't have to do it again. You're crying at your dog's side as you're putting them down. The only thing they're thinking is, why is mommy crying? I'm here with her right now. Animals only live in the moment. It doesn't matter what language you spoke here in the physical. Remember, when spirits come in and use my brain, they use signs and symbols, feelings and emotions, and anything that I have ever seen, felt, done, or experienced to talk to you. Have you ever really been missing your loved one, and then you're out and about, and then you hear somebody call their name? Well, that's because they made that happen. Don't think it's a coincidence. There are multiple points where you have an option of exiting your life. If your consciousness feels that it's not ready to, it will not happen. And that's kind of what we call near-death experiences. Absolutely everything happens for a reason. You just may not know exactly why at the moment. You don't really have free will. Everything is already planned out. Essentially, we're watching a movie. We do have choices within that movie, but even all those choices are already planned. The music industry is trying to control you through frequency because you are frequency, vibration, and energy, and whatever music you listen to, that is what you embody and become. Keep on listening to that low vibe stuff and watch no miracles happen. People that say animals don't have souls, you're being reincarnated again. Understand that there are no past lives. Every single life is happening right now. I want you to think of all our lives as a book. They're all on top of one another. But right now, where our consciousness is, it's only focused on this page. And that also means that those people in your life right now that you're like, oh my God, I know I've had a past life with, well, you have. You are. And that's why you feel so connected with them. 2 reasons as to why bad things happen. First, it's for you to learn a lesson. Second, it's for the population to learn a lesson. And third, it's because you didn't listen to your gut and you chose that way. That was a way of the ego. Next time, choose differently. When you adorn yourself with your loved one's jewelry or items, you're actually feeling part of their soul, part of their vibration, and they are connecting with you at that moment. Anxiety is all about living in the future. Depression is all about living in the past. The only moment, the only moment that you have is right now. And so remember, focus on that and all of those things will go away. Everything that anybody has ever thought of exists in some version of reality. We're all antennas. So when we start to focus or when we get inspiration, we're pulling that inspiration from another reality and then we're thinking about it, we're creating it, and we're manifesting into this physical world. But yes, unicorns exist on some level. If you're walking around a historical location and you feel really drawn to it, it's because you had a past life there. Actually, a version of yourself is still there.
There's a theory that the Hoover Dam is secretly a demonic throne and that the government put angels there to cover it up. You go to the Hoover Dam, you're gonna see something really odd. There's a spot that has 2 giant winged statues made out of bronze. They look like angels, right? They are technically called the winged figures of the Republic, but this is the weird part. No one officially says what they are. They're not angels, they're not demons, they're figures. And that's not random. There's actually a floor underneath them that is a cosmic map. It shows the exact alignment of the stars the day that the dam was completed. Like they wanted like aliens or gods to find this later. You'd think it's just some like artsy little design, right? But the guy who made that design said that this is specifically supposed to last for thousands of years. Like that design was supposed to outlive our civilization. And this is where it gets a little darker. People also call this place the throne of the devil. But why would a dam need a cosmic star map and then two 20, 30-foot bronze guardians? And then all of these like occult looking type symbols. Well, get this. So over 100 workers died while building the dam. And some people do believe that their bodies were sealed into the concrete and that they were considered to be sacrifices to bless the sculpture. And then on top of all of this, the location of these statues don't really make any sense. Like, why would they have these big designs at a power plant? And if you're religious, you also have to remember Satan was originally an angel. Another crazy thing to note is that the Hoover Dam has been featured in dozens of end-of-the-world movies, disaster scenes, and games. It has always been the center of destruction and secret technology. And then it's like, is that a coincidence, or is it programming for us to see it as the key to something? Even the name Hoover comes from a president who was involved in major US power shifts, literal power and electricity. And this makes you wonder if the government is trying to hide in plain sight. Massive monuments with spiritual symbolism built into them. Government approved, celebrated, protected, and most of us never even question it. So when you pass by and you take a little selfie, you don't even realize you are standing on what some call a throne. But the question remains, a throne for who exactly? Let me know your thoughts in the comments and follow for more.
I've been to the Hoover Dam before and I've definitely seen those statues, but I never really thought too much about it. I feel like they usually just build statues as like kind of, I guess, decorations. You know what I'm saying? Like when you go to like a chapel, there's always going to be like huge monumental statues. I feel like it's kind of the same thing, although that's a dam compared to like an actual chapel. Who knows? Probably just for decoration, in my opinion.
In honor of the 80th anniversary, these are the most morbid facts about the bombing of Hiroshima. Many people who witnessed the nuclear blast firsthand were blinded instantly. Some were even left with permanent atomic bomb cataracts like this one. When the bomb was dropped, the blast was so powerful that it permanently burned the shadows of objects and people into the ground. A few of these shadows remain imprinted in the Peace of Memorial Museum. The massive destruction of Hiroshima was caused by only a half a gram of matter being converted into energy, about the weight of a butterfly. Some Hiroshima survivors eventually grew black fingernails that looked like this. These fingernails contained active blood vessels and bled profusively when they broke off. If you're a certain distance from a nuclear explosion, you won't die immediately. Instead, you'll get third-degree burns all over your body, and your nerves will be killed so fast that you'll barely even feel it. This happened to a lot of victims in Hiroshima, and when rescuers would grab their arms to help them, their skin would slide off like a glove. The Japanese army had no idea Hiroshima had been bombed until an entire day after it happened. This was because there was no way to communicate with them, since the bomb destroyed all phone lines, telegraph lines, and radio transmitters. They had to literally fly an official out to Hiroshima to find out why they weren't communicating, and he found a city that was completely obliterated. Albert Einstein encouraged President Roosevelt to develop the atomic bomb because he feared the Nazis would make one first. But he deeply regretted this after hearing about the devastation of Hiroshima, and knowing that his discoveries led to the invention of the atomic bomb made him very depressed. Here's a watch found in the Hiroshima rubble that's permanently stopped at 8:15 a.m., the exact time of the bomb's detonation. Godzilla was created as a metaphor for nuclear weapons and was given the appearance of a Hiroshima victim. His atomic breath is meant to symbolize the blasts and devastation of the bombs, and he's covered in keloid scars to depict the brutal body scars of Hiroshima survivors. In fact, those who suffered the most from the bombings were in such horrific condition that people called them ant-walking alligators. According to one account, they were described to be, quote, faceless with their heads transformed into blackened alligator hides with red holes indicating mouths. They had once been human. When the sky exploded, they'd had the misfortune to survive. The alligator people did not scream. Their mouths couldn't form the sounds. The noise they made was worse than screaming. They uttered a continuous murmur like locusts on a midsummer night. One man, staggering on the charred stumps of legs, was carrying a dead baby upside down. None of them survived for long.
To be completely honest, I feel like Albert Einstein was low-key kind of right. I feel like the Nazis would have created the atomic bomb first, and it would have did way more destruction than that what happened to Hiroshima. Although what happened to Japan was pretty bad, I feel like the Nazis would have made it worse, and we would have been watching this video like, this is what happened the day the Nazis bombed all of the United States and Europe. You know what I'm saying? It would have been tragic.
Welcome to KFC. I hope y'all are hungry. Come on in, I promise I don't bite. We got the best fried chicken in America, made with my original recipe. And know y'all, the chicken ain't genetically modified. Just take a look for yourself, ain't nothing wrong with these chickens. Y'all think we got mutant chickens over here? Either way, y'all love this stuff. Who cares how we raise them chickens? They're good eating, and that's all that matters. It's finger licking good, y'all.
So there's a brand new horror movie that just came out, and this movie just pulled off something that almost no other horror movie this entire decade has. This movie is called Weapons, and as of right now, it's got a perfect 100% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. If you don't know about Rotten Tomatoes, that is a ridiculously rare score. Only 2 horror movies in the entire past decade have done that, and one of those was called His House on Netflix. So the plot of this movie is that this entire class of kids just mysteriously vanished all in the same night, all at the exact same time. All of them except for one. The one surviving kid becomes the center of this massive mystery, and now the entire town is spiraling, trying to figure out what happened. Was it a person? Is it a cult? There are actually critics that are calling this movie the most disturbing, the most psychological, and darkest movie they've ever experienced. And if that 100% Rotten Tomato score holds, this could be the best reviewed horror movie of the entire decade. Like, hello? Let me know if you're gonna go try to watch this new movie Weapons, but a lot of people are saying that they're too scared to even try. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll make sure I give you an update after I do watch it. I give you these roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back to me tomorrow.
If you see one of these hanging from someone's bag, run. Oh, sorry, I meant these. Turns out they might be kinda demonic, so this is everything you need to know about the Laboo demon theory in 1 minute. These collectible toys called Laboobos have been going crazy viral after a few celebrities were seen hanging them off their purses, and so everyone wanted one. They are these weird stuffed creatures with sharp teeth, evil grins, and angry looking eyes that can also be red. Not suspicious at all, right? Then many people came out online saying weird shit started happening right after they bought theirs. Stories of objects moving around their house, waking up with scratches, getting sick, and experiencing chest pains. One girl claimed she saw the eyes change color and this smile get wider. Another got in a car accident shortly after buying one. Either way, everyone just felt a creepy, unsettling presence around these toys for some reason. Well, now similarities are being drawn between the name Laboo and a demonic deity from Babylonian mythology called Pazuzu, who's known as the king of the demons and is often depicted with animal features, sharp teeth, a grinning smile, and long ears. Looks familiar, and people got so spooked they started burning theirs and throwing them out of fear. And of course, Simpsons already called it over 7 years ago in an episode where Homer buys a literal Pazuzu toy for Maggie and she gets possessed. Celebrities endorsing behavior with weird demonic undertones marketed towards the youth has disturbingly become just another Tuesday in the 21st century. I do not claim any of this negative energy, and don't worry, neither do you.
You know why something evil has to ask permission to come into your house? It sort of goes back to this old belief that nothing evil, nothing negative can enter into your life, can enter into your home unless you give it permission. See, we naturally have this protective barrier surrounding us. Some people call it guardian angels. Some people call it, a protective spirit. But we are naturally protected from these sort of things. But these evil, these negative entities try and break us down and get us to open that space, to allow them to come in. And so our homes, where we live, where we love, where we share intimate moments, right? That becomes a protective space. And this evil entity cannot enter through that doorway until you give it permission. Now, this story comes out of North Carolina. There was this woman who said when she was a young girl, she grew up in a small home up in the Appalachian Mountains. And she said when they first moved into this house, she remembers at night hearing what sounded like young children out in the woods laughing and saying things and calling her to come outside. And she would see shadows moving across her window like someone was walking around out there. She just ignored it, and she really had no idea what was going on. And she had heard stories, she had heard rumors from friends, that if anything evil comes to your door or invites you outside, do not listen to them, do not follow. Well, this one particular night, her parents left her in charge of watching her brothers and sisters. And she said they were running around the house playing when all of a sudden she got kind of this sick feeling in her stomach, like something was wrong. And she said her brother started screaming and started freaking out and crying. And she's like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? And he says, they're coming for us. Like, they're going to get us. They're coming. And she's like, what are you talking about? Who's coming? And he just kept saying, like, they're coming. And all of a sudden they hear boom, 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 like a knock at the front door. So she runs over to the window and she looks out, and she said at the front door was this young boy, you know, with an old timey haircut and wearing sort of like this blue jacket and blue pants with these like black boots. And she said he just looked out of place. She knew something was wrong. So she calls out to him from behind the door. Yes, like, what do you want? What do you need? And she said this boy responded, please let me in. Please let me in. And she's like, no, I'm not supposed to open the door. Mom and dad are gone. Like, I can't open the door for you. And he's like, please, it's cold. Let me in. And she said, no, you're going to have to go somewhere else. I'm not opening the door. And right as she says that, the lights in the house started to flicker. And she said she took her brothers and sisters, they ran into their mother's room, and she closed the door, and they all just started praying. And finally their parents got home and they felt safe again. And she said within a couple weeks, it was all over this town that there was a young kid who disappeared. And she felt like that had something to do with whoever was knocking on the door there.
Smoke in the forest. Medic, rescue the wounded. Murphy, give me the handy walkie. Star 1, this is Eagle 1. Come in. Eagle 1, this is Star 1. What are you guys doing there? LT. I got Mokuvian comms between the forest and orange smoke. I got orange smoke. Let her rip. Roger that. Coming in hot.
I'm not gonna lie, the Vietnam War always reminds me of like Home Alone. I feel like it makes sense though, because like you gotta look at it. If an intruder comes into your house, right, you're used to your house, you know everything about your house, you know the slightest details about your house. This intruder knows the bare minimum. They probably had like a plan, a map, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, the bathroom's here, room's here, kitchen's here, but they don't know your house like you do. So when the intruders come in, you can set up all types of traps, all types of things that they don't even know. So I feel like it made sense for Vietnam to be such a struggle for the U.S.
A bus driver in Florida was transporting 20 psychiatric patients when he got hungry and stopped to grab a bite to eat. In his hurry to get food, he forgot to lock the bus doors. When he came back, all 20 patients were gone. Desperate to keep his job, the driver drove the bus straight to a bus stop and shouted that rides were free. People nearby couldn't believe their luck and hopped on without hesitation. Once 20 people were on board, the driver stepped on the gas and drove straight to the psychiatric hospital. When they got off the bus, the passengers tried to explain they weren't mentally ill, but the hospital director wouldn't listen. Every mental patient says they're not sick, he claimed, and even told the nurses to increase their medication doses. It wasn't until 7 years later, when the media exposed the story, that the 20 people were finally released.
One night, this girl is driving down the road with her boyfriend in the car and she decides she wants to murder him. And so, kaboom, she slams the car directly into a brick wall. Now, the girl's name is Mackenzie, and Mackenzie's 17, living in Ohio, and she's kind of a wannabe influencer, or at least her social media posts suggest that she wants to be one. And honestly, she'd probably make a great influencer. I mean, people say she's entitled, she's a mean girl, she's kind of a bully, so she'd fit right in. But despite being all that, there's one guy who still really likes her. Her boyfriend. This guy, Dominic. And Dominic and Mackenzie, they met back in school, and they've been dating on and off for the past few years. Why have they been dating on and off? Well, apparently Mackenzie's not a very good girlfriend. Like, they fight a lot, and she can be really mean to Dominic when they fight. Berating him, calling him names, threatening to key his car.
I will key your car if you do not let me in the house. You're going to key my car if you don't let me in the house, yes.
But one day in 2022, shit gets really crazy between them. Because they're in her car, cruising along the highway, and Mackenzie's driving, and they get into an argument like they often do. And they start fighting, and they're yelling at each other, and she's crying and calling him all kinds of names, and suddenly, pow, she starts hitting him from the driver's seat. And so Dominic, he gets scared. I mean, he thinks she might accidentally crash the car. And so he calls his mom to come help him. I guess he wants her to pick him up if he can ever get Mackenzie to pull over. And Mackenzie, she's so pissed off that she threatens to crash the car on purpose and unalive them both. That is psycho behavior. Well, luckily, she doesn't end up crashing the car, and I guess they work it out for the time being. However, her crazy behavior does put a strain on their relationship, and at some point, Dominic decides, yeah, it's about time to break up with her for good. I mean, he feels like this relationship has pretty much run its course. 2 weeks later, Mackenzie and Dominic are still together, and they both go to a friend's party. And they have a lot of fun at this party. I mean, they're hanging out, Dominic is drinking, Mackenzie is apparently not drinking, but she's smoking a little Zaza. And after that, they leave and go to another friend's party, and they have fun there too. And around 5:30 a.m., they're all done. They're about to leave this second party and go home, and a friend of Dominic's needs a ride home too. This guy, his name's Davian. And so Mackenzie, Dominic, and Davian, they're all three in the car headed home. And Mackenzie, she's probably still a little high, but she's driving slow and she's careful, so, you know, they might be okay. In fact, you can see footage of them rounding the corner here, and it looks like they're going at a normal speed. Now, none of us know what really happens inside the car beyond this point, but we can assume, based on past behavior, that Mackenzie and Dominic start fighting. And that is when she just snaps. And skirt, she floors it, pedal to the metal, and the car takes off. And she's so mad that she's gonna unalive everyone in the car, including herself. And of course, Dominic's probably like, what the f***, slow down! And he tries to stop her. And he allegedly grabs the gear shift and he throws it into neutral, but Mackenzie grabs the shift herself and rams it back into drive, and she keeps on going, faster and faster, and she gets the car up to 90 miles an hour. And as they reach the end of that street, she doesn't ease her foot off the gas, she doesn't stop, she doesn't brake, she doesn't turn, she keeps on speeding, accelerating toward a brick wall on the side of a building. And she gets the car to nearly 100 miles an hour. And suddenly, kaboom, she crashes into the wall head on. Here is actually security footage of Mackenzie's car just before it hits. And here's a picture of the wall after it was hit. And here's a picture of Mackenzie's car, and here's the car from another angle. So yeah, you get it. This is really bad. Now, they're in an industrial part of town early in the morning, so there's no one around. It takes about 45 minutes for anyone to see the wreckage and call police. And so police show up, and they can see that the car is all busted up.
This car's split in two.
And they discover that, unfortunately, Dominic, he didn't make it. And neither did Davian. They were both killed instantly on impact. While Mackenzie, she actually survives. And she's rushed to the hospital, and she's there for a while, and she has to have a bunch of surgeries, but she does end up making it. And she's eventually discharged from the hospital, and she goes home. Meanwhile, police, they have to investigate all this and figure out what the hell really happened. So of course, they question Mackenzie, but she doesn't claim that she slammed into the brick wall on purpose. No. She says she doesn't remember anything regarding the crash that night, so she's not very helpful. And so they go and they interview Dominic's friends and people in their circle. And their friends tell police, like, yeah, Mackenzie was a little nutty in the relationship. In fact, she used to threaten Dominic. And police see recordings of her threatening to key his car.
I will key your car if you do not let me in the house.
Police are also told about the fight Mackenzie and Dominic got in weeks before, where she got really pissed off and threatened to crash the car on purpose and unalive her and him both. And while police continue to investigate, Mackenzie, she's out here living her best life. Like a few weeks after being discharged from the hospital, she's caught attending a concert, and here she is, she's in a wheelchair because she's still recovering from the accident. She also goes back to making TikToks, like this one.
I'm not even cool, I'm just one of those girls that can do a lot of drugs and not die.
And notice how she adds the caption, Google Mackenzie Sharilla, Strongville, Ohio. Like she wants you to Google her and see that she was driving her car and got into a horrible accident that killed her boyfriend. Because that's the only thing that comes up when you Google her. Like she wants attention from all this. Why? Not only that, she goes out for Halloween to a party dressed up as, and I'm not making this up, dressed up as a corpse. And she actually takes multiple pictures throughout the night and posts them. And I guess she must have dressed up twice because later she dresses up like Lean, while her friend dresses up as a joint. Lean is a mix of cough syrup and soda. It's a drug. And so they dress up like drugs and dead bodies for Halloween. They even make some TikToks about it. Anyway, while police are still working hard on this, they get access to Mackenzie's crash car's event data recorder, aka its black box. I guess the black boxes kind of look like this. Well, they get access to it, and it shows that the night of the crash, after Mackenzie floored it, she never tried to slow down. She never attempted to put her foot on the brake at all, and that she jerked the steering wheel at the last second, which veered them off the road and directly into the brick wall. And so police, they're looking at all this, and they start thinking, this crash seems intentional. Like she was trying to unalive everyone in the car, including herself.
The computer demonstrated that there was no attempt to slow down or stop. It was full speed into a building. Tragically, it cost 2 people their lives.
And so, bam, they go and they arrest her.
Hi, Mackenzie. Step out for me. I'm Detective Jesus. I'm the one who's been investigating the crash. You're under arrest for aggravated murder ×2.
Here's her mugshot. And Mackenzie goes to trial, and she's found guilty, and she's sentenced to life in prison.
Let's get some claps in the chat, yo. W police investigation. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I was like, everyone in the car died but the person that actually did the freaking crash. Come on, bro. And then she didn't have any remorse after she did it, too. She was out partying, dressed as a corpse, flexing it on TikTok so she could get more clout, which is already disturbing in itself. And then instantly went to a concert. Dude, she did not care that she killed those 2 that night, dude. And that is just insane to me. So the fact that she got life in prison was well deserved. I'm surprised it took them that long to figure that out, but you know what I'm saying? At least she got what she deserves, if I'm being honest. Horrible story.
This is everything that happened on the news today, but I'm gonna simplify it for you in 60 seconds. These scientists are now saying that they may have just discovered the biggest ever black hole in the entire universe. So these researchers are now suggesting that this new black hole could be as many as 10 times bigger as the black hole that's in the Milky Way. If you were wondering how big that might be compared to something that's already in the solar system, they're saying that this black hole is estimated to be about 36 billion times the mass of our sun. These new images that were just captured by NASA's Curiosity rover could now prove that there was life on Mars. So the latest images that were sent over from the rover on Mars are now showing a piece of a rock that scientists believe could be from billions of years ago. They're saying that this rock is very closely resembling a coral that would be found in the oceans on Earth. There's now over 12,000 packages of these sugar cookies that are being recalled in 20 different states for potential wood contamination. Yeah, wood in cookies. So these are actually the frosted sugar cookies that that are under the brand Favorite Day, and it's exclusively sold at Target. If you want to make sure that you do not have these sugar cookies, these are the lot numbers and the UPC codes if you want to make sure you don't have them. Rockstar Games has just officially confirmed the release date of GTA 6, and they're saying that it is officially coming out on May the 26th of 2026. No more waiting. I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me so you don't forget to come back tomorrow.
This man is scared he will never die. Ismail Azizi from Tanzania has reportedly been declared medically dead by doctors on 6 separate occasions, but has come back to life every single time, and no one can explain how. In a recent documentary by Afromax, they report that the first time he died was after a workplace accident. He was taken to the hospital in critical condition, and soon after, doctors declared him dead, not some randoms off the street. His body was taken to the morgue while his family started preparing his funeral. But to their bewilderment, he regained consciousness and walked out of the morgue onto the street like he was taking a nap. And that was only round 1. He died again after catching malaria, but this time he made it all the way to the coffin before yet again waking up at his own funeral. Now this became a literal cycle for years. Death 3 was after a car accident where he collided with a fuel tank and put him in a coma. But like clockwork at this point, after being pronounced dead by medical professionals again, he woke up. And at this point, even the doctors were getting freaked out. Death 4 was after he got bit by a venomous snake, but this time he spent a whopping 3 days in the morgue. And that really convinced his family that Ishmael was gone for good this time. But no, because when they went to go retrieve his body for his 4th funeral, he woke up again. Now after his 5th death, he fell into a toilet pit. His community started getting a little scared, and they became convinced beyond reasonable doubt that he was a witch or a ghost. So you know what they decided to do? Burn his house down with him inside to try and kill him for the 6th and final time. And guess what? They were successful until he woke up again. Bro, I'd be scared too. I couldn't die. And now after all of this, he has to live in an isolated old house with no neighbors, because apparently he's a bit of a local legend and people are too scared to live near him. He also said he can't get a job either as a result of the stigma.
That's insane. That honestly doesn't even sound real to me.
You might run faster than a cheetah, or maybe even outrun a car. You could dodge a bullet with your low reaction time just by reading the shooter's movements. This means you'd see everything in slow motion as your brain begins processing the world faster than normal. You could jump several meters high, and with insane reflexes, you could potentially dodge almost any animal attack. But at normal conditions, if your adrenaline surge increased this much, you'd black out or die within seconds. If you raised a T-Rex from hatching, it might imprint on you, but not for long. That turkey-sized cute little baby already has a bite force of a large dog, more than enough to kill you. Within months, it'll grow as big as a large dog and will be capable of protecting you. As it outgrows you, it will start showing dominance and turn uncontrollable. You'll have to make sure its stomach is always full, just to avoid the chance of becoming its next meal. Now, standing about 12 feet tall, your T-Rex has become a full juvenile apex predator, driven by instinct to hunt anything in sight. But with a T-Rex as your pet, there's no one left to fear except him.
He was stuck in a coma and couldn't move for 2 years. But when his neighbor checked the cameras, he noticed something weird. Because when no one was looking, he would walk to the store and buy groceries like a normal person. You see, it turns out that he was actually faking it the whole time to avoid paying money in court.
This is how Kurt Cobain died. He was the voice of rock in the 90s. Some even called him the King of Rock. Alongside his band, Nirvana, they released their first album, Nevermind, which sold millions and went platinum. But behind the fame was a man slowly crashing out. You see, Kurt actually hated the spotlight. He couldn't stand all the fake smiles or the people who were trying to control his life. In early 1994, things got worse. He overdosed in Rome, collapsing in a hotel room next to his wife. The doctors managed to save him, but that wasn't something he saw as a blessing. Days later, he refused rehab and disappeared from home. No one knew where he went, and he wasn't answering anyone's call. Then came April 8th, when a house cleaner found him at his Seattle home. Lying cold on the floor, beside him was a shotgun, a white lighter, and a note saying he'd lost passion for life and music. The official cause of death was suicide, but the weird part is the drug levels found in his system. They were off the charts, enough to knock out an elephant. The surveillance cameras outside didn't help either. They automatically deleted footage every 24 hours. Some people still believe Kurt would never pull the trigger.
So today,
we're gonna talk about the scariest drug of all time, acid. Acid, aka LSD, is by far the scariest substance I've ever used in my life. 10 times worse than edible, 5 times worse than shrooms. I don't think I've ever had such horrifying moments with any other substance. LSD is a hallucinogen. It makes you hallucinate. It can make you see things that aren't there. It could convince you of things that aren't true. It could change the whole way you look at life. I got introduced to acid when I was about 19, 20 years old. My boy was a musician, and he always told me that acid would unlock the secrets of life. And he sounded so convincing. Acid usually comes on a little piece of paper, like this big. So when I first seen it, I'm like, there's no way this could be that strong. And boy, was I wrong. My first trip was crazy. You couldn't tell me that I didn't have life figured out. The reason why I say it's the scariest drug of all time is because the hallucinations that you have feel so real. I remember it was me and 3 of my homies. We all decided to trip this day. We all popped the tab and decided to hop in traffic. So as we drive in, it started to really kick in. My boy, I'ma call him Jay. He like, yo, bro, you see what I'm seeing? I'm like, nah. He was pointing to our other men. He was like, yo, bro, he don't look different to you? So he called his name out. I'ma call him K. K's in the front seat with a hoodie on. He like, yo, K, yo, tell me that's you, bro. K like, what are you talking about? He like, bro, as soon as you look to the side like this, all I seen was a horse head under your hoodie. K like, what? I'm tripping so hard. When K turned his head, I literally started to see a horse head under this hoodie. Scariest shit I ever seen in my life. And it's crazy because a lot of people feel like this is like this higher level of consciousness. And I did too, for the longest. I realized I was just high. I wouldn't recommend acid to nobody. I've heard of people using it one time and never being the same again. They say acid's not addictive, but I know people that trip every chance they get. Anytime their tolerance comes back down, they trip. Any festival, party, movie, I feel like LSD is something that you have to be ready for. Because if you go into it just thinking that it's something slight, you're in for a rude awakening. I done seen it take down the best of them. I'm talking about my toughest friends. I watched them cry their eyes out for a whole bunch of shit that's in their head, and it literally scarred them for life. Some of your favorite artists used it, and they made it seem cool. They say it's a way to raise your consciousness. I would highly disagree.
Bro, at the end of the day, the math is pretty simple. Just don't do drugs. Boom. But, you know what I'm saying? Some people be bored, I guess, but I'll tell you a story. So I've heard a lot of times people be like, yo, if you take this thing, you take this substance, you might not be able to come out of the trip. You might not be able to come out. You might get stuck in the trip. And for the longest, I was like, that's fake. Like, your brain, you know what I'm saying? Your body will filter it out. Until I literally know someone that took it and got psychosis. Bro, they literally took the substance and never returned to normal. Like, now they're on medication. So that's why I'm like, hey, just don't do it. It's that simple.
Thank you all for watching this here video.